talking about SNL, the history, the mysteries, and all the hot impressions in between, breaking down all the numbers as well. In your favorite sketches with special guests, it's on the Saturday Night Network.
Yes, welcome on in, everybody, to the Saturday Night Network for another edition of our Monday Night Roundtable, coming to you after the Mikey Madison and Morgan Wallen episode of Saturday Night Live, season 50, episode 15, to talk about all of the biggest moments from this week of SNL and discuss how the episode will be remembered. We are, of course, here as a presentation of LateNighter.com, and my name is Jon Schneider from the SNN. We have an all-star panel here to talk about this week of SNL. I can't wait to dive into all of the major storylines. So much to talk about, and a great live chat. So hopefully you're with us on this Monday night, and we can get your thoughts here in the chat as well. So let's introduce our panel. First up, Kirstin Rajala is here. Kirstin, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. I am excited to be among this company. TJ, Nicole is back. This is going to be fun.
Yes, this is going to be a great time. And your podcasting duo buddy is here as well, TJ Randolph. TJ, how are you?
I'm doing very well, John. I feel like this is just a nice, I feel very zen. I feel very nice. I don't have, for the YouTube viewers, I don't have as much of my like posters and plushes and things behind me, but Childish Gambino is still very much behind me. I'm glad to be here, but I wish I was happier showing up here. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that. Oh, but like happy about like SNL. I'm happy. No, internally I'm great. I'm doing amazing.
Do you not want to be here tonight? Is that my understanding?
Let me say it. I do want to be here, and I did extra work for this podcast that I feel like I haven't done since I did extra work. So I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be talking about this, but I wish I could be nicer today. But not. Right. But I'm not talking about the antithesis. The antithesis is not being mean. I think I'm a little bit more disappointed today.
All right. Let's see where this goes. And whenever something big happens in the SNL universe, I feel like we have to. It's there's some cosmic being that says, let's call in one of the great SNL analysts of all time. And we're so excited to have Nicole Rovine back on a roundtable for, I believe, the first time since 2021. So Nicole, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Thank you, John. Thank you. It's great to be back. And no, with what TJ said, it was not like not an episode that I think stood out in a multitude of ways. But then the universe was like, let's make something kind of behind the scenes interesting happen for us to talk about. And I'm sure people are here to hear our thoughts and what people know about that. So that's the kind of stuff that I really like. I think people know what I'm talking about, but it's great to be back. I'm happy to be back when SNL is again, it made news that transcended the show. I always think that's interesting from like a pop culture news perspective when something happens like that, and then you have the people, we'll get into it, but I'm happy to be back, and it's really great to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you. I'm very curious your thoughts on everything. So we will discuss it. Obviously, we've alluded to, a lot of controversy that has happened since the episode, and I'll fill in all the listeners for those people are not perennially online. But
chronically, John, chronically, you're chronically online.
Chronically online, okay. Yeah. Online. Well, we talked about it a little bit on Saturday, but Morgan Wallen booked for the second time as an SNL musical guest, and there was a lot of conversation that we had back in season 46 when he was removed as a musical guest and then brought back again. He had like hooked up with some people at a bar, and it was like prime COVID time. So they're like, let's get Jack White in here instead. They ultimately bring him back in the Jason Bateman episode, and they do a whole sketch about, what it was like to be at the bar, and okay, everyone's cool, whatever. Now flash forward many years, Morgan Wallen's obviously become this huge country star. And there's a lot of, off the field things that, some people don't really care for him. Some people really love his music. However you feel, he was booked for this episode. And things seemed pretty smooth during the performances. Your opinion may differ about how you liked them or not, but things seemed okay. And then we get to this moment at the end of the show where traditionally host and musical guests standing together, cast all basically arm in arms around them. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to Lauren. Good night. Credits roll. Everyone's around having a good time. But as we've talked about many times here, the good nights is always, the one time where the bridge is broken down between the show and the fans, the moment where you could actually see what is really going on. And right after Mikey Madison says thank you, Morgan Wallen walks basically down the stage towards the camera and exits. And we get some looks from Ego and Keenan, like, what is going on there? And of course, a lot of discussion was to be had. I did address my opinion on this on the Hot Take Show. I'm sure it'll come up again here tonight, but it's basically all anybody can talk about from this episode. So, obviously feel for Mikey Madison, who got outshined by this news, but we will talk about this first because I think it's the thing that people want to talk about the most. And then we'll get into the episode. Kirstin, your thoughts on this controversy we saw on Saturday night?
I'll start by saying I don't listen to country music. And so hearing that he's that popular is a surprise to me. But I do know him because of his canceled appearance. That's what I know of him. And I was surprised that he's coming back again. I guess it's a popularity thing. Again, I don't listen to it. But gosh, he's done a lot to ensure he doesn't get invited back. If you're like, the folks that are watching or listening are like us, you study the good nights and you're picking up and looking for vibes and looking for relationships and such. So this was a really bold move. And Jon, I agree with your take. I think it was an immature move to make in an industry that has a long memory for certain things like this. And gosh, I don't think he thought it would cause this much of an uproar and this much conversation about it. But there was a lot more that was unsaid about what he did than anything else. Like, he didn't look at the camera. He didn't have to do anything. Just the act of him walking away spoke volumes about not only how he felt in the moment, but it was a very much a lack of respect for all the work that went into the show and all the other cast members and people on stage. That's also their moment. And some of them may not be on the show that episode or have, 1 minute on screen. And so for them, the good nights is they're on camera. It's a thing. And he took something away from them in that moment. So he's a party pooper, and I don't like him.
Yeah, and that's totally fair. I mean, on Saturday night, I did not say anything about Morgan Wallen personally. I just felt like what I saw on screen was disrespectful to the institution. And I don't know what is going on in the man's head. I don't know how he feels. I don't know even if it's as simple as a mistake or you have to go to the bathroom. I mean, I really don't know what happened. But I just know that from what I saw in that moment, it came off really disrespectful to me, to the show. And I feel like sometimes the show itself likes to protect themselves by just saying, like, whenever there's controversy, let's just button up. Let's not address it, and it'll eventually die. And like, somebody has to say when they see something wrong to defend the institution. There's not many other places out there except for sporting arenas where like there could be considered like holy ground of comedy. Like, there are theaters out there, but not like ones that get a broadcast on national TV every single week. And in this case, like, I felt like it was completely disrespectful to what the show is in that moment. You could have thought the episode was horrible. There's many hosts who stood up on that stage and probably weren't happy with the show, but stand up there for a couple minutes. TJ, you seem to have very strong opinions about this, so let's get your 2 cents.
Okay, first of all, I can't fucking roll my eyes enough at this. Like,
wait, it or us?
Both. And I'm saying this with like somebody who loves doing this show. I'm on an SNL podcast. I'm spending my Monday night here. So clearly, who am I? I'm just some guy on the internet. So I'm not that special myself either. But I think two things you guys said are right. One, it did feel like it outshined like Mikey Madison's moment, best actress, the best actress winner, first Gen Z to win an Oscar. This is a huge deal. First time that, to my knowledge, from what I've seen from research, this is her first time doing something super live. That's not like a talk show, like live performance, even though, when you do a talk show, you are performing still, but she's not a theater actress. She's not an improv person. She's not a comedian, not a singer. To this is her first live show. Like, she has to act. no one can save her with an edit. She can't retry it anything again. So we are coming, thinking, okay, what is this actress that's received one of the highest acclaim, the highest acclaim in that world? Okay, she's gonna do something completely different. It's like Halle Berry doing Catwoman after. It's like, all right, what's this gonna be? So I think one, you guys are right. It did outshine it. Two, I agree that I think it is like a disrespect to everyone is working on a show together. Even if you show up on Thursday when everyone else has been there since Tuesday, you guys are putting on a show together. There's not just the actors. There is crew. There are lighting people, musicians. There's HR people. Everyone is there to put on a show. And I think it is good to show some respect. However, the thing I think I'm more bothered by is that it's such a big deal for people when we've seen other people walk off stage. We've seen cast members walk off stage. We've seen cast members not even show up. Pete, the amount of times we don't see
and
Pete
have I called it out every time?
No, you haven't.
100%.
I've done the show with you for 4 years.
I've called it out every time. I don't.
John, I listened to the show
John has
too.
called it out every time.
I don't want to hear that.
I'm
shit.
gonna back that up.
I've been consistent for years. I've called this out every single time Pete Davidson's done it. I've called it out when Michael Che's done it. I've said it every single time. There's been people who commented. I'm sorry, TJ. I just want to say.
No, go ahead.
Commented on the Instagram post, and they were like, "Did you bring that same energy when cast members did it?" 100 fucking percent. I did,
okay, so all right. I'll give you that. And
more cursing is allowed here these days than in my time.
Oh yeah,
it's a big change.
Dave Chappelle, the podcast.
Whoa.
John, you're right about that. And the bad thing about trying to question somebody on this show is there's people who have data to back that shit up. So I'm gonna choose to believe you. However, okay, it's fine. So you have that same energy. I get it, but I don't know. I just didn't think is this the story? Is that the story from the night? A dude walked off stage. It is not that deep. And also, I get it. The whole "Get Me to God's Country," I think that adds a layer to it. It's oh, wow, he must not really like being there. So I'm okay, I understand how people are reading into it. That's the story you want to put on. Morgan Wallen, troubled musician. People wanted him to take him off the radio waves because he, was doing dangerous COVID things. He also said the N-word. Fuck that nigga. I get it. Controversial star. This is a way to add to the story. He's a big star. He does have a couple of tracks I've liked, but I think we're focusing so much on the wrong thing here. We focus, and also right before I just rewatched the episode. I think you guys probably caught this too. There's a split 0.4 of a second where you can hear the mics pick up Mikey and Morgan talk to each other, and it's very hard to catch what it says. But there's something about I think Mikey is apologizing or saying thank you, and then Morgan says something. Oh, I'm just really tired right now. And then what you see right after that is a man who was tired give the church hug, and then he walks off stage. I'm not saying it was a cool thing to do, but I don't think it's this big issue. The president is trying to run for a third term. Is this what we really need to be focused on?
We're not debating whether,
it just feels so ridiculous to blow it up. Mikey Madison put on blue makeup and was Squidward. We had an HBO Girls level parody of SpongeBob, a 25-year show. Morgan Wallen walking on stage, something that none of us thought about in the exact moment, except maybe John. Maybe you thought about it when you were reflecting.
No, you're wrong about this. You're totally wrong about this.
But it's not that big of a deal. There were so many other great things that happened in that show.
It's not a big
deal. It wasn't just walking off stage.
I get it. It's the post too. But it's not the biggest thing.
I want to
get
Nicole in here in a second too. But just let me just say, because Nicole, I'm going to bring you in, and I want to get all your thoughts on this. But let me just say, I think the reason it's not a big deal to you, and that's your right. But the reason why it's a big deal is because this isn't a show that takes place in a community theater once a week, and we're all like, "Yay, you put on a show!" This is a show that's broadcast for millions of people, who most of whom only care about the show because of the lore of the show. That the history has been built up for this show. If someone started Saturday Night Live tomorrow,
everybody. That may not be him, and he doesn't have to do that. And I gotta respect it.
But
that's
then,
what
as people who love the show, we can criticize him for it. Anyways, let me.
I think that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Yep. TJ, I think you do care about it because if we did a time,
not this.
you talked about it longer than either of the other two people so far. So probably 3 times as long. So I think you care 3 times as much as the 2 previous people who spoke, from what I can tell. So I think you care.
That's not accurate.
We could go back. We could roll the tape
don't
and
like
count.
that we care so much about it. That is so much like the focus.
All right.
Yeah. Sorry,
all right. Later, I'll count the seconds. We'll see. I in the right away, I was like, again, the episode was not, it's not going to go down as one of the greatest episodes of all time or anything. So
Yeah.
I was like, it really caught my attention in the moment. Just because there weren't that many things before that did that night. So I think it was a huge deal. I also think, and this is where I don't know exactly what happened, but I know there are some conflicting reports that he did the same thing during dress. Before I talk further, Jon, is
That's
that
true.
true? Okay,
That's
so here's my perspective. I think this is a new perspective of that hasn't been said yet tonight. Wouldn't if he did the same thing during dress and the show and the cast and the crew and everyone, if they wanted to protect him or they liked him, they would have said after dress, hey, if you do that during the live show, people aren't going to like it. If you want people to like you, or I'm looking out for you, or anything like that, then don't do this. So if he did have a good relationship with the people around him, they would have told him not to do that. And clearly, either they told him and he said no and was intentional about doing the same thing again, or they were like, he can, build his own, whatever, his grave. So that's what I think. If he did the same thing at dress and nobody stopped him from doing it again, then they did not like him because they knew that the audience was going to react like this. So in any situation of what happened based on him doing it at dress and again, there's no world where the cast and crew liked him and wanted him to succeed and wanted him to be perceived well. There's just no world. If they liked him, they would have been like, dude, don't do that. Like, not going to go over well. Don't do that. Don't do that. So there's no world in my head where they had a good relationship. And then the pre-tape that Joe Jonas was in with no explanation as to why the musical guest, who was also, a dude who could have filled that role, I have to imagine that was going to be Morgan Wallen, and then it wasn't. So I think it's a big deal. I also think I'm not mad about it because I think, and Jon, I do think you'll agree with me, there in this long history of this show, when things happen to kind of disrupt the course of history of things, it's meaningful and it's impactful and it gets us to care like this. So I'm impassioned about it, but I also think it's good for things like this to happen because then it just shows what something can mean and can come to mean over 50 years. So it sort of becomes these milestone moments that, oh, this was the year that Morgan Wallen did this, and that comes to mean something. So for like the overall storytelling of the show, I'm not mad that something I didn't like happened because I think it has an interesting imprint on that whole journey of the show. And yeah, lastly, I loved the Jason Bateman sketch from a few years ago with him with the cancellation. It was just one of my favorites of the entire season. There was something very rewatchable about it and enjoyable about it. Jason Bateman, it was more of Jason Bateman in it that made it so fun to me, but it was randomly like top 15 sketches for me of the whole season, very randomly, because I'm not a super fan of Morgan Wallen or Jason Bateman, but there was something about it. I really liked it. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, and they're good thoughts. I've said my piece on Morgan Wallen and my opinion on the act. As far as what happened during the week with him, there's definitely conflicting reports of if he was actually supposed to be in a pre-tape and backed out or not. But what was clear was somewhere down the line, people had a problem with him. And his choice to address that was to leave the stage. So whether it matters to you or doesn't, I don't really care. It mattered to me, so that's why I talked about it. But I will say, I do have a problem with the way that SNL addresses these things, which is just to pretend like they don't happen. And Kenan was on like a press tour today, and I will again preface this by saying I love Kenan Thompson. I think he's a top 10 cast member of all time, and I respect the guy who probably knows SNL better than anybody else. But basically was asked from like every possible outlet today, like what happened with Morgan Wallen. And he was like, did something happen with Morgan Wallen? Like, I don't think for SNL to survive that we can afford to wait for the next version of a Live from New York book, or for somebody to be, holding hands with Lorne and watching him for 5 years to be able to know what happened behind the scenes here. Like, I believe that and I say this as potentially the person who's gotten the closest to achieving something like this over the last few years. I think that there should be better access and opportunities to ask these questions. Like, why does the entire internet have to speculate what actually happened during the week with Morgan Wallen? Why can't we just ask the question or have somebody from the show address it? So look, I know I have a line to these people, so I'm not, calling out anyone specific, but I'm just saying sometimes I get frustrated at the idea of like, well, I guess we're going to find out in a few years what really happened here, when like we could find out today and have a proper conversation about it. So that's sort of my 2 cents there.
Sometimes it's just not our business.
It is absolutely our business. If you're going to put out a show that we're all invested with how the show became what it is on Saturday night, it is 100% our business how the show developed from start to finish. I could not disagree with you more.
That's okay.
Kirstin, anything else on this that you want to talk about?
No, I feel like I need to make popcorn.
This is fun. TJ, I don't mean to shut down everything you're saying because I think your opinions are.
You're not. I got nothing more to add, partner. And that's not
All right.
out of spite, listeners. Like, that's not shade to Jon. This is a nothing burger. We're not going to think about this in a week. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's true. But
There's another show on Saturday. Do you think
guys
will be thinking about that? We'll be thinking about Elton John is going to be on SNL. Do you think I'm going to care about Morgan Wallen when come on. Like, it's not a story.
If something else like this happens, we come back to this moment and compare to it, and we reference
I agree with you. I do. I think I could I agree with that it could be a stacking thing, but I think it's is it? Nicole, is it storming outside for you too? Like, it's crazy. Like, sorry, there's like a crazy storm out here.
Yeah, it's been. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, listeners.
But saying we
bad.
won't talk about it
Yeah.
is dismissing that in the context of this podcast, we dissect all of this stuff. So it's absolutely topical. That's what we do here. We talk about all of these things and all of these details. So this is the perfect home to have this conversation.
I'm not questioning the validity of the podcast that I'm also on with you.
I wasn't suggesting that. I was
okay.
I was debating that you said this is a nothing burger. Why would we even waste our time talking about this vibe? And I'm saying, no, we are absolutely the people that would waste our time talking about this.
Yeah.
Right. That's kind of like our whole thing.
That is a very fair point. That's a very fair point.
And again, I just, there's a lot of new listeners that have come. There's a lot of new listeners that have come in over the last year. And there's a lot of people who may not know the difference between the Roundtable and the Hot Take Show. And the Hot Take Show on Saturday is truly to just break things down immediately after they air sketch by sketch. The intention for this show, which was the first show we ever started here at our podcast, was to always talk about how this episode will be remembered in 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 50 years down the road. What will this week of Saturday Night Live be known for? The same way we look back at shows from the 70s and we're like, that was the episode where this happened. And unfortunately, for maybe some good things that we're about to talk about in the next hour, I do believe that this episode will be remembered for Morgan Wallen deciding to make his own moment at the end of the show and like outshining the rest of whatever we saw on screen. So anyways, it's the biggest story of the week. It's the story that we have to talk about. If naturally we want to come back to this during the show because we think of other points that we want to discuss, that's fine. And if you disagree with me, and that's totally right. That's the best part of doing the Saturday Night Live podcast, is that not everyone is on the same page about this. We all come from different, approaches when we watch the show. And I love the community involvement. So feel free to comment on how you feel about what happened this week. All right, let's talk about Mikey Madison. Someone has to. So let's talk about her and her being booked for the show. Best Actress winner, Anora. So, SNL in season 50 has really leaned on people who have had history with the show coming back. For only the 4th time this season, we get a first-time host being booked for this show. How did we feel about it when it was first announced? Nicole, let's start with you this time. Let me ask you, were you excited that Mikey Madison was booked for the show?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I had a thought. I was going to interrupt and then I decided against it. But since you went to me first, when you said about how this whole show, a big part of it is community, I was thinking, I know I haven't been on the show for a while, but just seeing all the names in the chat, it's really amazing to see so many of the same names that have been part of this community for a really long time in the chat right now. And I think it's a really special community that's here. And I just wanted to take a moment to tie in what you said you do to literally what you do and what I'm seeing on the right of my screen. So I think that's really cool that it's just so many people who have been here for a long time. So shout out to all of those people who have been here this whole time, because I know Jon has created this really cool thing with a lot of people who are on the podcast and who listen and who engage in the chats and everything. So I just think that was really cool.
Shout out to the listeners.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole community, whether you're on the screen or you're in the chat, it's all the same thing. You know, I feel like there's not a huge difference between me having the mic or me in the chat.
100%.
So I think it's really cool that it's a lot of the same people with the mics right now, and a lot of the same people in the chat. And then Jon, of course, being the constant who's here. Anyways, I think that's my niceness for the day. I'm going to be a little sassier moving forward.
All right, Mikey Madison.
I just felt this genuineness come
It's
over
such
me.
a nice thing to say, Nicole. I know.
I'm like, let me kind of be nasty
exactly.
now.
Like,
I know. I'm gonna be
it's
mean,
wonderful.
but
It's a wonderful sentiment.
I felt something. I just thought it was great.
You felt God in Phillies tonight.
Anyways, so now my time starts now about the question. So I don't want to be perceived as talking too long.
No one will perceive that. Don't worry.
Great. That's key for me. Okay.
My time starts now.
So yeah, no, I think it was cool. I mean, she is a fellow Jew, like myself, so that's really cool. I know she's the youngest Best Actress winner since Jennifer Lawrence, and then Jennifer Lawrence became a really fun host of the show, and you know, you could see Mikey Madison's career going in a number of directions, which I think is fun for her. I don't know if she's going to be more comedic or more dramatic. I don't know. It feels kind of like the world is her oyster. So SNL did seem like a fun place for her to start her post early young Oscar journey. You know, this is like the first thing she's really doing since winning the Oscar. She's had a few interviews here and there, but this is the first big thing, you know, whether a TV show or a big appearance, whatever. Like, this is the first time she's like, hi, this is who I am. So I think it was exciting. Yeah, I just think she's one of these, like, what?
You had a smirk that made me think, oh, she's about to light her up. Like you just
no.
Oh no, okay, all right. I misread your face. My bad.
No. No, I think it was just in terms of the booking, I think it was exciting. I think how she did, I know we'll talk about. I think she did well with what was given to her. I don't think there were a lot of super memorable moments, but it didn't feel like it was her fault. I think she had the charisma. She illustrated herself and described herself as being socially awkward, or you came to see on the show that she's not like the type of actor who comes into this industry because they love attention and because they're the kid in class who's raising their hand and trying to like have everybody laugh at them. It was very clear she's not that kind of person. As she said, she's a horse girl. She was homeschooled, not like the best social skills, you know, like a shy kid. And SNL is a place that like it's where you meet someone who you have to be both an actor who can like immerse yourself in roles, but also be like charismatic in a way that is yourself. And I think she was vulnerable in showing us that she's not maybe the most like out there bold person when she's who she is, which makes some of the best actors and actresses as people who can like immerse themselves in a role and then their real life they're very different from that. So I think she showed that in a way that maybe like she's not going to be, you know, like a future 5-timer or anything, but I think she showed that, and that's a unique kind of person to have host the show. And so it was like relatable in ways, and it was boring in ways, and it was funny in ways, and unexpected in ways. And so I think it was a good booking in all.
TJ, what about you? What did you think when we found out that Mikey Madison was going to be booked for this episode?
I share a lot of Nicole's sentiments, but I knew that, like, because I think I got booked for this after Mikey was announced. No, before Mikey was announced. Like that, like Julia reached out to me, was like, hey, do you want to do the show? So, and then I found out who I was doing, like who we were doing as the host. And my mind went to a place of, okay, I know she just won the Oscar. Like that's really cool. That's really great. And usually I feel like we've done a lot of pre-Oscar stuff for these types of hosts, but this is a really cool one. So I'm like, I know myself well enough to know whenever we get these new hosts and I'm like, yo, who is that? My brain goes to like, all right, who is this person? They have to prove something. This woman's already proved something. And like, she's been in quite a few things. And so I decided to like, for the first time ever, I actually watched someone's movie. I've watched specials and I've watched shows, but this is the first time I watched a movie
For the first time ever with the host.
Yeah, my first, yeah. Sorry, specifically to prepare for the podcast. A lot of times I might have already seen the thing, or like it just was coincidental, or I didn't care that much. But Anora was enough that I was like, oh, this seems intriguing. Heidi did that random character. I was like, all right, like just let me give it a shot. I'm very glad I watched it. Great movie. Obviously, I'm just not a big Oscars movie guy. I know it's more Sammy's thing. They're so boring sometimes, but like this, La La Land, those are good. Bridesmaids good. Get Out's good. Sorry, what I'm trying to get at here is that like it was the first time I watched something ahead, and I watched it the night of the show. I watched it, I think, like at 3:00 before the show came on. So this is my first Mikey anything until I realized I saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Can't stand that movie. Not good. Actually, I shouldn't say it's not good. I just severely don't like it. But the last 45 minutes is great. Like, who doesn't think it is? So I came into this knowing I was going to have a bias towards her because I was like, who is she? And watched it to kind of curb that. And so I'm glad I did. So after watching that film, I'm like, oh, snap. She's great. Like, I'm so ready for this. This is going to be a lot of fun. And, or I'm like, I hope this is a lot of fun. It's like the Reggae-Jean Page episode where it's like, we've seen them in one thing. It is an edited thing. And I know Reggae-Jean, I think he did stuff before this, but like, we've seen him in like a specific thing. This is like the biggest thing. Let's see them host the show. And so that day, I'm a Mikey Madison fan. I'm like, all right, let's watch this. And while I don't have anything against her personally, I think the fact that she hasn't had as much. I know people have social anxiety, but everybody has social anxiety. It's not that special, honestly. It's like 50% of the population. So I have it too. Like, it's just not that special. Okay. And also shout out to homeschooled horse girls. I dated a couple when I was in high school. But the thing that bothered me about this was that when she was on screen with other actors, and you could clearly tell she was reading the cue cards, which again is something you can see. You can see just Meeks doing it. We see in the cast doing it. But I felt like it was so much more distracting versus oh, it's just a piece of it. Like, there's times where you just go with it, and other times where it's it was really hard to not be distracted by it. And it was very clear, okay, the live thing is yet not where she's found her comfort footing. This woman is clearly a talented actress, and I wanted to see her perform well. And obviously she did pretty fun in the pre-tapes, but it felt like this was an episode where I think, John, you've described this phenomenon where it's somebody comes in and it's a Dave Chappelle, and it's they kind of put their stamp and this is their show, I'm Megan Thee Stallion, versus an episode where it's the person doesn't really have as much that they add, and so they're more it's a supporting cast member, and it felt more like that, but not even a cast member. She was very clearly a guest star. And everything I'm saying right now is not I have no issue with Mikey Madison, but the only way I felt about this is I was incredibly disappointed because I blame myself because I think I rode the high of Anora that day. I hadn't even had time to sleep on that movie. I had just watched it, and I'm rooting for this woman immediately. So I think I set very high standards for what I came to expect. Yet then what I realized is, oh, this isn't a live performer. This is an actress, and she's specifically an actress. And so I know that is, by the way, that doesn't mean she can't grow and do other things. I'm not trying to limit what she is able to do. But I think while I was excited, I wanted to leave this feeling like the Reggae-Jean Page episode. I wanted to feel like I want to see them back. And I didn't leave the episode feeling like this. I don't want her to come back. I wanted her to try again. But I wish I was happy with the booking, but not as happy with the episode as I really wanted to be. But we'll get to a part. There's things that we'll
talk about it.
Absolutely. But yeah, I wish I'd had more fun, honestly.
Yeah, I feel you. Kirstin, what do you think of Mikey Madison's booking?
I also was only aware of her from the Oscars and then did watch Anora. It was a fun movie. Hot take. I don't know that it was Oscar material. I think she's a talented actress. TJ, I agree with you. I think where she did her best on this episode is when she was prepared, like a great actress would be, right? So near the end of the show, the game
That's
show
all her interviews
and
too.
Stuff. Yeah, she's a great actress. But as soon as she was thrown into things, you definitely could see her reading. I'm sure we'll talk about the cold open, where it's she forgot how to act and read at the same time because she would read and then text and then read and then text, which should have been happening at the same time. you got to remember how young she is. She's 25 years old, and she's not a mega pop star. And these are big reins to take. I mean, it's like, you're being dropped in this comedy lion's den with a live audience. There's a million moving parts. There's 50 years worth of expectations breathing down your neck. And, it's an iconic institution, as we've talked about. And for someone with that little, or maybe zero, sketch comedy background, the show is putting a lot on her to say, can you be funny in our world? And for someone who's known for more intense roles, especially like Anora, that's a lot to live up to. I did think she definitely had the right attitude, which I am a big fan of. She played into it, especially with Squidward. Like, she was game. But I think John in the chat had said, we don't know her enough to know what to do with her. And so I think she ended up in a lot of ensemble pieces because of that, because unlike other bigger stars, which we'll probably see this next week with Jack Black, like, oh, I've got a thing. With her, very much a blank slate still. I am glad they didn't go the Sydney Sweeney route and just lean into strippers, nudity, all this stuff. I was worried about that, and I was glad that didn't happen. They leaned into, kind of mobster wife thing, which I was fine with, because that was a great one. When you're a younger guest and you're not a household name, the spotlight burns a little hotter, and people really want to know why you're there. And I think that makes it even more difficult for someone like her. It's clear that they want to celebrate that this young person won this Oscar. There's so much buzz on Anora, but that pressure is really intense. And I can't imagine, in 90 minutes trying to convince America that I deserve to be on this show, and I'm going to be the most amazing and funny person ever, besides all my indie film chops and this Oscar that's now at my house. Like, that's a lot to ask of a young person. So overall, I commend her for like leaning in and looking great and being a part of it. I would like to think that we see her in a future episode once she's gotten more roles and there's more diversity to the type of role she plays, and we just get to know her a bit more and they know what to do with her.
Yeah. Speaking of looks, I just want to shout out the stylist, especially the photography, the looks, everything. Oh my God. Like her dresses, the looks, the photos, all awesome. Oh my God.
I actually wrote that. I was like,
yes,
woo!
The eye rolls that she's also beautiful, like whatever. But the looks that they also got, like that, yes, it's like you help 75%. But like the way they styled her was absolutely fantastic. She looked incredible in everything that she was dressing, even with her arm being fucking broken. Like, she looked great. Like, just so shout out to also like the costume design for this episode specifically, because I just felt like it's like, wow, she really pops every outfit that she's in.
Yeah.
Respectfully,
she's also hot, so it's not like it doesn't mean anything.
Respectfully, I disagree with you, Kirstin. I don't think that a 26-year-old deserves any grace for being young and not doing great on Saturday Night Live. I think that, you're given the opportunity. Clearly, she's an accomplished actor. I don't think that, I think that's what we do. Like, it's a pass-fail situation. Like, you either bring it or you don't. And I don't think that, I know, and look, there's a lot of
We've
factors.
had much younger hosts too. Much younger hosts.
For sure. There's a lot of
Miley,
factors.
Billy.
100%.
But they grew up in the business.
So did she. She was on Better Things for 5 years.
No, that's true.
That's not growing up.
Spotlight. She's very new to navigating the spotlight. But I will agree with John, just to quickly chime in. I'm 26, and I could never do that. I could never go up there. But the difference is, if I were in the situation to be booked there, it's because I had put myself in a situation to be ready for something like that. Like, if you're 26 and you're winning an Oscar for Best Actress, she's the 9th youngest woman to ever win Best Actress, which is pretty significant. It's very young. So if you're putting yourself in that position and you're succeeding in that position, then it's we're not going to give her grace for her age.
You guys are being harsh. I give her a little bit.
No, we're being real, not harsh.
I think we're being very nice. I think we're even being a little too nice. The episode wasn't that strong, and she didn't perform as well as she is. Like, it just is what it is.
That. In that, there's a million reasons why a host could be underutilized, and it's not always the host's fault. So you have to take that into account. But that doesn't change the fact that a host can will themselves to having a great episode. It is within the host's power to push stuff forward and be so great that bad writing, they can make up for it. And I don't think that she did that here. Now, is it fair to ask a first-time host at 26 years old to do that? That, you know, your mileage may vary there. But no doubt, after watching this episode, is Mikey Madison one of the most unforgettable, one of the most forgettable hosts of all time? There's an argument. I mean, I think she's probably the most forgettable host of the season, and I feel bad for her.
Roundtable.
No, she won the Oscar. Winning the Oscar makes her too big.
Forgettable.
Yeah, but she didn't win the Oscar on SNL. She won the Oscar and then was booked for the show. And I like Morgan Wallen stuff aside, like I promise you, if I sit down with 100 average SNL viewers and I say, like, name me all the hosts from this season, like, is Mikey Madison being named last? Like, probably, because like she had no moment where she shined, and like unfortunately, like that's what we ended up getting. Now,
5 years, like it's too. She's a pretty big at the moment, even though it's a small movie. Like you can't ask us this now because her name is in the lexicon. Like we have to see, like, you know, like if we remember what she does.
Like, okay, well, will we remember besides the fact that she was like won the Best Actress award for Anora? Like, tell me somebody that's going to be like, I remember when Mikey Madison did that on Saturday Night Live.
We can't say that yet.
Was Squidward when she was Squidward?
We don't know yet.
I think that's a good visual.
I think it'll always be overshadowed by Bad Money at Shrek. So I think even then you're talking about something that's like,
I mean,
yeah.
That's an hour and a half long conversation that we don't have time for.
Also, John, I will meet you outside the schoolyard at 3:00 and I'll fight you over the age thing, because I think that, and it's a general statement, sure, but that women, their voice becomes more confident as they age. I mean, I think that's true for everyone, actually, but I can speak as a woman.
Brain develops.
No, it's not even that. There's a confidence that comes, especially
our
like
brains
when you
develop
turn 40.
way earlier than yours do.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm not saying it doesn't.
40 as a woman, it's like a video game. You unlock a new level, and there's so much beauty in that. And I can relate to being a 25-year-old. As much success as you have, there's imposter syndrome. There's all sorts of things. So I'm not going to die on this sword, but I do think, you know, younger people have sometimes been better prepared for this type of thing because they've either done more improv classes and acting classes, and they've been in theater and they've done other things, as people have been referencing already. But I think she's someone who does better with preparation, and the live environment is something she just needs more experience in.
I wish I had these numbers in front of me, but like it feels more fair because like she's one of the youngest, as Nicole said. However, if I think about people like Billy, Justin Bieber, Miley Cyrus, like people like Jennifer Lawrence, I'm guessing was around this age when she hosted.
If we think about people like that, though.
However, they've all done some form. I think you guys are really not playing into the live aspect. Justin Bieber, Billie Eilish, live performance, Miley Cyrus. Even wasn't Jennifer Lawrence in a sitcom in front of a live studio audience?
That is still the same thing, though. It's a live thing. Yeah. It's live experience.
I don't think it's an age thing. I think the live is the biggest like thing here. I just don't think she was that used to it.
Or even being in the spotlight where you have live interviews, for example. All those people famous for so many years.
Live.
But I think that those
we're still allowed to judge her despite her lack of experience.
Yeah, I can only be so hard on someone who's given a role that they can win an Oscar for at this age. Like, I think you put yourself in that situation and you're giving people the ability and the option to judge you in these ways that we're doing here. Like, I'm her age. I don't have any qualms of like me sitting here doing this, you know, if based on her having just one, like, I don't know how many people are in that position, you know.
We could just we could hold two things. We could say that, you know, we could judge her for her lack of ability to make this episode better than it was, and we can also say if she hosted again in 5 years, she may be able to put an episode over. Like, it's not like those things are mutually exclusive. So for me,
I am rooting for her, by the way.
Yeah,
I want her to succeed.
I think she deserves a better episode of Saturday Night Live, and one that's not, the storyline is not going to be not about her. So for me, anyways, it is what it is. I am very excited to talk about what ended up developing throughout this episode. So let's dive into the specific sketch work here. And we'll start with our cold open and talk about how SNL decided to address this major storyline that broke out last week with war plans being texted to somebody at the Atlantic when they shouldn't have been, and how SNL was going to involve them in the group chat. So like, this is
that's a story. Now that is a story.
Is it a bigger story than Morgan Wallen? We'll discuss that.
Of course it is.
I don't.
It's not. It's not. It's not. No.
I know you guys are
No,
trolling me.
in the
I know this is
world, it's a
happening.
bigger story. Yeah.
No, it's not. The
Nicole.
fact that SNL did what they did is not a bigger story, because
Oh, I agree.
Oh,
I said in the real
we
world.
meant the
In the
the
real
news story
world.
the
itself.
story itself, yes, but
That's
the
what
way
we're talking
SNL,
Okay.
the way that SNL
no, that's-
has anything to
No.
do with it is not a bigger story.
Yeah, no, that's not what we're saying at all. We're talking about
I know,
the
but
fact
I'm
that it
making
happened, yeah.
I'm making a statement that it continues to be the biggest story of the episode is
Yes.
the Morgan Wallen thing. I'm just making that
But
statement.
but in theory, this should have been the biggest story of the episode, because it is
Yeah.
rare
No, it
nowadays.
shouldn't have been. It's
No,
Squidward all day.
hear me out. Okay, hear me out. It should be the biggest because this is so mined for comedy. This is like a fabricated, like if you built in a lab, like something happens in the real world that SNL can make fun of, like this would like pop right out and you'd be like, yes. So I was very excited to see how they were going to handle it. And we end up getting this version of these three girls who are all sitting around texting in their like high school gossipy girl chat. And in comes Andrew as Pete Hegseth, who is very excited to be a part of the chat.
FYI, green light on Yemen raid.
Yes, very excited. Everyone's like, wait, what is happening? And he's not sure. Is he supposed to be a part of the chat? He speaks to Jennabelle.
Oh, nice. Jennabelle from Defense, right?
And of course, we get all the back and forth with Andrew, and eventually Bowen as JD Vance, Marcelo as Marco Rubio, and then in the end, Mikey as Jeffrey Goldberg from the Atlantic. So Kirstin, how do you feel like SNL addressed this craziness?
I think it needed like 15 more minutes in the oven. I also have a very high bar for this type of sketch, and it was Monica Lewinsky and John Goldman as Linda Tripp dialing in Saddam Hussein. Like that to me was that's the number one. And so when I saw this, I was hoping for something that got close to that. TJ, I was very distracted, as you said, by her reading like she was full on just like stopping and reading. So it was hard to suspend my disbelief in that one because of it. So I agree that they should have done this. It was absolutely the moment because of how ripe it was for SNL perfection. It didn't get all the way for me. I'm glad they did it. I just wish it had, they found a little bit more, they were able to wring a bit more humor out of it. Cause again, that John Goodman, Linda Tripp was my North Star for this type of sketch.
Yeah. And like literally all you can ask for is something really silly to happen at the White House.
Yeah.
Like, let's have something happen. Like, I know you, I wouldn't never accuse myself of being an expert on this stuff to know like how serious is it that the editor from the Atlantic was added to a group chat about war plans. But just on its face, it sounds so dumb and so funny to me, like almost as crazy as like the president and like hooking up with somebody who's not his wife. And like, I think that the fact that SNL had an opportunity to do something with it is just ideal. So TJ, how did you feel like they did with this?
For a split second, it made me it made me think about the Four Seasons thing from a few years ago as like just like something that's so stupid happening in real life, and just realizing that like comedy isn't just in a TV show, that like it can, man, there's just some stuff that's just funny in real life, and that is hysterical.
Four Seasons wins the stupid award though between the two. I think that's like really top tier.
Sure.
I had to say, I just remembered that for a second. That was
No, it's fine. The what is it? A landscaping company?
Yeah. There's
a
nothing
whole
better in
conference.
the world than stupid things. That was amazing.
And I mean that laugh with like every bit of condescension that liberals usually lace on things that's kind of annoying. And like, but like it is funny. Like at the end of it, it's a funny situation. And I'll be honest, it wasn't a situation I was thinking about that much.
Hey, TJ, we're just getting some mic interference from you. So I just, let me head over to Nicole while you fix that for a second. Sorry. Nicole, do you want to jump in on your thoughts on the cold open?
Sure. Yeah. So I don't know if Mike ran these stats, but I would love to know, Jon, is this the shortest cold open plus monologue combination of all time? I would really like to know.
Oh, all time, definitely not.
But like it's in the top, maybe like 5%, 3%, 2%.
Like in an era where they have longer cold opens and monologues, then you probably have something here. Whereas there are other eras that are literally like, and you're in like, so it's a little bit different, but I understand what your point is here. And yes, especially the monologue was very short.
Yeah. Or if you take like, yeah, exactly. Just something real. The entire rest of the episode, it really was throwing me off how short these first two components were. It kept being like particularly when the second Morgan Wallen song started and then it was over and then we're back into the episode with like 16 minutes left. I was like, and then they just kept going and there was more and more. And like, I don't know this, but the game show sketch, it felt like that was not supposed to be the last sketch and they just had so much time that it was something that got cut and then they threw it in at the end because they had time to use. Jon, you'll let me know if I'm right or wrong, but
well, let me just address it now so we won't keep the listeners waiting on this, because this was a question that we had on Saturday that I was like, I'll find out between now and Monday. So I saw something on the rundown sheet for this episode that I've never seen on any rundown sheet in the 5 years that I've been doing this, in that the last sketch of the night on the live rundown, so what they plan to put in the show, and sometimes they will put extra stuff in, but literally says Safari Car, which was one of the cut sketches, or So Like, What Are We? So like instead of slotting in the sketch, they slotted in two sketches and put like this one or this one. So anyways, I don't know if you had heard the background that they ended up like the So Like, What Are We in Dress had like a lot more people in it, but clearly there was a lot of changes that happened between Dress and Air.
Got it. Makes sense. So yeah, it was more, my answer so far has been how it impacted the rest of the show. But one other comment about the cold open itself. This is like the inside baseball stuff, but it feels like a waste to not have the host say live from New York. I know she has to go change and get ready for her monologue, but the inside baseball part is I wonder if like she was gonna, and also there were 6 little heads, so 7 might not have looked as good or something, but the inside baseball part is like, do you think they were like, you know, she's not going to go down as one of the best hosts of all time. Maybe we're not going to quite give her the live from New York. So maybe we'll just say, no, you need to get back and, you know, make sure that you have your dress on, everything nice for the monologue. That's where my mind goes, because it's like, you're going to let her, like, she's going to be in it. And it makes sense for her to be in the group that says it, but then she's not going to say it. Like if that were, you know, a super fan host of the show, say like, if it's an actor, like if Emma Stone, before it was her first, you go back and her first hosting opportunity all these years ago, and she's written into the cold open, and they're like, so you're actually not going to say live from New York, you're just going to go get ready for the monologue, even though it would make sense for your character to do it. She'd be like, wait, can I say it? Like, I'd love to, that would be a dream. It feels like if they really wanted her to, she would have said it, and she didn't say it. So I just was thinking about that.
It feels like if he wanted to, he would type of logic.
Yes, right. I was thinking of that as I was saying what I said. But yeah, you know TJ, what I mean?
TJ, we got you back now.
I mean, can you? Does it sound good?
All good. Finish up your thoughts if you don't mind.
Bro, I don't remember what I said.
All right, that's fine. Well, let me jump in with my thoughts on this cold open, and I'll just say that I actually think they did a pretty good job for this. It's the second week in a row that or second episode in a row that I really did enjoy the way that they addressed this. Did I need Mikey Madison as one of the girls in the cold open? Like, probably not. So, like, to your point, it was a little bit weird just like for her suddenly not to be there, though I assume it was probably for her to get dressed for the monologue. But like, still, I thought Andrew was really great. It's Pete Hegseth here. And there was some fun stuff. I really think Streeter Seidel, who helped write this cold open, along with Jost and PDD and Will Steven, Streeter has been like really fundamental in the good cold opens this season. So I think that's just like a behind the scenes factor that I really do enjoy. But yeah, I am really excited that they had something fun to play with here. And I was getting the vibes of like early 90s SNL or late 90s SNL. I think I said in the I think I said on the Hot Take Show on Saturday that I felt like this concept could have been done in any era. It could have been done with the 70s with the original women of SNL all sitting around having a group chat if they had those back then. So for me, I think it was fun that they instead of having a bunch of men sitting around, the Situation Room, and like involving Pete Hegseth, they chose again to create a scene of something that was fictional for the SNL world here. So keep it up. I think that the cold opens and the turnaround of them has been a really good second half storyline from season 50. Let's dive into some of the sketches that we want to talk about from this episode. So Kirstin, I will send it over to you. What sketch do you want to kick us off with?
This is a pre-tape. It is the second of this group of characters in this kind of setting. It would be Varsity Valley Spring Break. Mikey Day's Mountain Dew chugging dirtbag is back, and I love it. He's got his nipple rings. It's ridiculous. When it started off, I wasn't sure where they were going because, they come into the hotel room. She finds the ring. We're not sure. And then all of a sudden, cue background and chaos ensues behind them through the motel window. I say this is my favorite form of parade of characters because, you look at something like Jury Duty where it felt very contrived. Okay, next. And we're just seeing, everyone's not quite big enough or fulfilled enough for its own full moment. We just get to see them go by. You had Devin, Sarah, and Emil as this kind of little ragtag group, and Sarah's puking on everyone, projectile puking, I'll add. JJ is the hotel worker. Ego pushes him in the pool. Keenan is security, great role for him. Mikey fits in like an ensemble player here. She's, Cassie, she jumps off the balcony, destroys herself, but rallies to party some more. But seeing Heidi on the scooter, dressed as an old lady, she looked like the lady from Something About Mary with the suntan. And then seeing Ego steal the scooter and drive away with it. And if you catch Heidi in the background, and then Andrew Dismukes comes out with a gator. I mean, this is so Uncle Grandpa. I loved it so much. Uncle Grandpa, I mean, real small redneck. You have an Uncle Grandpa, TJ. You got it, yeah?
The hell
you looked at me
I do.
like you weren't sure. Oh, not that you do, but you were confused by the term. So I love, Mikey and Streeter, I think, had a really good episode. There were a couple, if not more, sketches in this episode that showed off their comedic excellence. And I was happy to see Mikey back in this character. They did this back in 2023 with, I think, Jenna Ortega when it was in a diner. And this was, I think, a repeat that stood up to the original. If not for we didn't necessarily have the same surprise as we did the first time around. But I loved seeing all those characters playing in the background, the absurdity of it all. So that is my favorite of this episode.
Yeah, I mean, I'm struggling with this a lot because this original sketch was one of my favorite sketches that we've ever talked about here. I just thought it was so brilliant and creative, and I was totally cool when they brought it back for the right track. And this just didn't work for me. And I was trying to figure out on Saturday what it was that didn't work. And as I rewatched it, I definitely diagnosed that this sketch was way too dark. It really was. If you go back to not dark as in the subject matter, I mean physically dark.
Oh, not well lit.
Yes, it was really if you go back and you watch the Waffle House sketch, it's a lit up diner, and the subway is lit up so you can see people go horizontally left to right on screen here. This was a dark pool at a motel in Florida. And you could just again, there was just no way on the first watch to understand what's going on here. And I think for me, as fun as it was to be oh, okay, spring breakers at Florida pool, let's find a bunch of people who are, all different types of crazy. I just felt like this one didn't visually work. And the sketch is really meant to be a visual joke a lot of the time. So that was tough for me. TJ, what did you think of it?
I'm so conflicted on it because like I was very glad that first of all, let's shout out these sketches because it's not really Varsity Valley, it's Waffle House 3. That's what this is. That's what I wrote it down in my notes as. I agree that I like those first two sketches and I love that they came back to it. I like that I got surprised. I was like, oh, this is what we're doing. Like, you're expecting the game, and it's like, oh, we're back to this. I know this is kind of a fun formula. And I just want to take a quick moment to defend parade sketches. I thoroughly enjoy a parade sketch because it's easy, it's quick, you can go to an actor and be like, hey, can you do something? Do you have like a quick gag? Look, I know that JJ's had a Jay-Z impression. He's been wanting to get out there for a while. So for him to do it as a radio guy, quick, clever. He doesn't need to be out in a Jay-Z costume. It's just an easy way. I know it's easy for the impressionists as well, but I love a parade sketch. I feel like it gets to the point. And you know what? The great thing about a parade sketch, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's fast. It keeps moving. It's kinetic. And so I
agree with that.
Thank you. I enjoy a parade sketch very much. So I like it in this format too. I do wish I enjoyed this one as much as the first two. I think that Waffle House is strong. That first one is strong. I even think that second one is fun, but like I don't think about it as much. And you know what's weird about this? This is a returning sketch that is fun, that is liked. It's a liked premise. But how often are we really thinking about it? Maybe Waffle House might come up in your YouTube recommended. But are any of us also think about maybe it's because it's not in like the same setting, so it's harder to remember it as a series, and it's a big theme of this decade of SNL where it's like reoccurring concepts in like sets rather than a reoccurring character. And yes, there's reoccurring characters, but it's more about, hey, let's do the same sketch, but sort of again and sort of in a different way. So I appreciated this. There were definitely fun little gags, but the thing that makes me upset is I'm upset that even though I like this sketch, I'm upset that it still, for me, wasn't like a stick out. I've had to be reminded of it twice, even though I liked it and enjoyed it. I just didn't feel it was as strong. Although I will say, "It's my scooter now, bitch," is a great line. Phenomenal line. I can't deliver it as well as Ego. I'm no performer. So a lot of fun here. Anytime Heidi plays an old lady, great. I'm enjoying myself. But I wish this had maybe had its punch more. Also, yes, you can call out Mikey Madison having a great moment here, but again, it's in an edited moment where she could have done another take. So, is it really fair to say it? Because that's where where she would shine.
I don't know if you guys ever like walk down the street and like walk by a department store where they have like something in the window, and especially maybe like around the holidays, and it's like all lit up and beautiful, and you're like, wow, like there's a place in Montreal like Ogilvy's where they have like this beautiful like Christmas like set with all the toys, and like you go and I remember
like in Home Alone.
Yeah, like that type of thing, like where you go and you like whatever, and like that's what I feel like these sketches are. Like, I feel like these sketches are that the foreground is supposed to be like you in the dark, like having this like deep conversation. And then like everything that's going on in the background is supposed to be like this magical place where all of this craziness is happening. And I just don't know that they delivered on that. Like, I feel like the magic of the first two showed that a lot better to me than this third one. But Nicole, how did you feel about it?
I agree. I didn't love it. When you said, I finally diagnosed the problem, it was dark. I was racking my brain. Like, were there really dark themes I was missing? Like, is there like something, philosophical? Were there like really smart, plays on words that I missed? I was like really trying to think about it. You should have played it off like that and gotten the listeners to, gaslight your fellow podcasters, make us think that we're thinking more than we are, etc. Because I would have kept thinking about it the whole time.
Nicole, you've been missed.
Anyways, yeah, I didn't like it that much. I agree. The tone wasn't right. I didn't feel it was like, yeah, you're not. I liked your comparison, John. It's supposed to feel like those two things happening at the same time, or you're like looking on at this other thing, and it wasn't right. It wasn't right. It wasn't right. And then, it makes sense. We're going to spend even more time talking about pre-tapes after this one tonight. As we said earlier, this was a host that was better in that circumstance. So that's why we're going to talk more about those. It just is what it is. I think the best hosts are not the ones where we all choose, or many of us choose pre-tapes to talk about. But in this episode, that is what it is. I also chose a pre-tape to talk about. But yeah, I don't know. It didn't strike for me, but I think I did like some of the visuals. Again, maybe they could have been better lit. But I think there were fun colors and fun things happening. And I don't know if the light was a mistake or if they were trying to create this different vibe that we missed, and maybe it was actually dark after all, and there are themes that we missed. And then they used lighting to reflect that. Who knows? But yeah, it didn't feel. Yeah, it felt kind of like emblematic of the episode to me. Just kind of like
Well,
the variables are there, but are they kind of like doing it for me? Not really.
Speaking of reflections, did anybody catch how fake the pool looked in the back? And
Yeah.
Did anybody catch that?
It was
still
weird.
fake
Also,
looking.
like, again, like this scene is supposed to be like a left-right horizontal scene, but the pool is vertical, so it just like threw me off a little bit. Again, like I think that there was a lot of really good stuff here. The ingredients were all right, and it's just the execution. Like, it was, if they had done this where Chloe Fineman and Marcelo Hernandez were in their hotel room and outside was the beach at spring break, and you see all these spring breakers like in the background as they are like discussing the ring, I do think this ends up being an all-time great sketch. It just didn't come together in the way that I wanted it to.
Do you think there's lore? Because in the first one, he breaks up with his high school girlfriend, and in this one, he's clearly like a guy, like in college, like thinking about getting married to somebody. Like, do you think there will be another one where, because it's Marcelo in the first and third one?
Yeah, it's the same character as Zach.
Yeah. Oh, so it is the same character. It's not just Marcelo.
No, it's not just Marcelo. His name is Zach in both sketches. So
okay, all right. So maybe in the fourth one, we'll have like another. We'll be following Zach.
We should shout it out because, again, Varsity Valley, same show, Zach as Marcelo. Look, when they do these things, when they don't do these things, we call them out. So we should also praise them when they do this properly. So 100%, it's very cool to get the same character from that original sketch back in this one. I just would hope that they don't give up on it and they maybe take what worked better in the first two for the fourth one. All right, let's go, TJ.
To character is Domingo.
Yeah, let's go to you for the sketch you want us to talk about.
Yeah, I want to talk about what I felt was Mikey Madison's strongest live performance sketch, the What Are We sketch. Now, granted, I'm partial to these because I love things that like talk about dating. I'm also a big fan of there's a specific sketch, which is this exact thing where it's a host anchoring. It's the Jessica Chastain sketch. By the way, John, that's the host anchor sketch you forgot in the graphic on Instagram. Jessica Chastain, and in 2017, I think. But fun fact, one of my favorite episodes of all time. But in that sketch, it's just like a woman kind of trying to break down, like, what is this? And so I really enjoy that. Also, quick pause for the amazing dress. Again, costume design that they had Mikey, and it was incredible. I feel like I'm talking about a guy who's like, it was amazing. Did you see it? It was good. Like a guy from the 90s on Seinfeld. I liked this concept. The thing that sucks about it being her best live performance is because you realize there's no other people in her shot ever. So there's no one for her to look at, for her to be distracted, for it to look weird that she's not looking at someone. So she can clearly look at cue cards and it's not going to bother us. And that's the thing that sucks about how good it is. However, I will say, still her best performance as well. I don't know what other people not being in the same like shot as her would have had to do with it. Maybe because she could look at Michael like occasionally, but not seem off. So it keeps her on the ball, but it doesn't keep the audience off the ball. But also, I think this felt like this felt like it was like, okay, finally she's comfortable. Like, I felt like if you watched another 30 minutes, we would have seen some, like, she would have like found her rhythm. And I think she was great in this. And like, this is a very relatable character, like casual hookup. This, I can't get this person to commit. Like, how do we figure this out? So easy energy to bring to it. But I'm really glad that this, at least one live sketch, felt like it was a cakewalk for her. And I do wish there's ways the sketch could have been stronger, but I do feel like this is a time where I didn't just know in my head she was game. I felt like she was acting like she was game. And so it made me have like much more fun with it. There's even a moment that she does, it reminds me of a moment in the film where like Annie is about to cry. And she like tucks it back and showing like Mikey Madison, really great at those little like emotional inflections. And there's a moment where she does like your prize could have been me, and she does a twirl, but then there's a split moment where her voice cracks. And I think that was really funny. It was, it was such a minor little thing. And I think only she could have done that. And so I thought there was a great place for her to put her handprint here. And while it still may not have been the world's strongest, I do think it was probably the best of the episode for her for that specific category. You know, it's crazy. We're giving this woman so many caveats. We're being so nice. But I did enjoy it overall, though.
That's the thing, TJ, is that like they did her no favors by burying this at the back of the show. Like
not at all. Not at all.
If they had just put this at the top of the show, I think our entire perception of her evening is different. So that's what's unfortunate about it. Nicole, how did you feel about So Like What Are We?
I totally agree. I think, and it had the feeling of a first sketch after the first commercial. Like it that's where we usually see this exact type of thing. If not right there, then first half of the night for sure. So that was like, I would even venture to say shocking placement, not just surprising or unusual, but I would even literally say that was shocking placement. Very confusing.
And we were this close to the show ending on a game show for the first time since 2000. So like 25 years. Like this is not something the show does, which was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, shocking. And you felt it. You know, all of us people who watch this show with this type of lens, you feel it. It's like, what? Like it's shocking to the system. And even more casual fans are probably like, they even feel it that's not normal. So that was like really threw me off. But then it's also like maybe you would put it in the back for someone who did have a strong front half of the episode. You know, there are reasons that you could explain it. But this is a case where it actually makes so much sense to put it in the beginning because of how strong it is for the host. And the host then wasn't as strong anywhere else that was live. So confusing all around. We could find a way to blame Morgan Wallen maybe and not give him caveats. I don't know. We could try that. But
do you guys think that if you literally just switch the order of acting class and that sketch, that it fixes or at least brings the first half, it brings the first half up?
Yeah. And it changes the lens that we see the rest of her performances through. It makes us see those differently.
I agree completely.
It was a great redeemer though, because otherwise we would have been saying, oh, it started off strong, but then, you know, downhill from there. And now we're talking about it like a redemption story. So
yeah, but you want to put your best stuff at the top of the show because more people are watching.
Yeah.
Right.
We could have had a nice half hour.
That's the business way to look at it. Sure. Yeah.
Right. My other note is TJ, what you said about how she was so much stronger but didn't have to be interacting really. Like, you know, maybe she's looking at the cue cards. Oh, it is pouring. Maybe she's
like it's crazy.
Yeah, at her one scene partner a little bit in her cue card sometimes, but I think, and I won't give her caveats, I'll just be blunt, I think that's a very poor reflection of her for this show, that her best performance is when she doesn't have to be interacting with the ensemble and playing off of any cast members. There was no playing off of each other really in this sketch. Like you're kind of acting individually, both of them. They didn't have to be playing with each other in any way for them to both have good performances. So I think that's a very bad reflection on her, that this was where she shined, because to be great on this show as a host, you have to be fun with the cast. I mean, you think of all the best hosts, they're like, you know, making the cast break, or if that's not your thing, you know, then disregard what I said that they're breaking, but they're, you know, being physical with the cast, or they're doing any of your favorite things on the show as a viewer, whether it's breaking, whether it's physical comedy, whether it's like, you know, just going back and forth really fast, doing something funny, like whatever it is that you as a viewer like to see on the show, the cast member is doing that in a rhythm with, the host is doing that in a rhythm with a cast member or multiple cast members. And so that's where I'll be hard on her. Like, yeah, we didn't see that from her, really.
That's completely fair. Do we think that I don't know if everyone's at least seen her in one other thing, but I have a hunch that if I hadn't watched Anora before that, I think I would have been a lot harsher, because I wouldn't have had something to see her capability.
Oh no, I was harsher because I saw Anora and I was like, oh, okay, like she's like super talented, and like what, like this is not showing up on SNL. So
but I imagine I'm a viewer that, like, let's say I'm a viewer like in Michigan, shout out to Sammy, don't know her at all. Do we think do we think that for the average, like, are we being nicer since we're SNL fans and we can see the little things that like do work and don't work? And is this just a bad episode to an average TV viewer? Like, I think we're maybe.
I don't know, because we're not
do
those
we think
people,
our bias is coming in a little bit?
Yeah,
you know?
I think if you are, then definitely let us know what you think in the chat or in the comments after. Kirstin, your thoughts on So Like What Are We?
I agree. This and kind of gangster stand-up were her most natural. And I do feel like these ones had more preparation. They were more defined roles and lines. And so I've got to imagine that in other cases, perhaps we always hear about how on the night of those cue cards are changing up to an hour before, and you've got to read them. And in these two, she felt most comfortable. So it could be that they were the most rehearsed, could be that they had the least changes, could be that, you know, their position in the show, could be that it was with fewer people. I think all of those things play into it. It was these two that we saw, oh yeah, she's a great actress. This just has not worked out well. But this was reminding me that, because I started to question my own judgment, right? Like, oh, maybe she's not that great an actress. And then seeing her in this one in particular, where she was extremely confident, I was reminded that no, she's got this. I wonder if she woke up on the Sunday and would have thought, oh my gosh, can I just have a do-over? And if we would have, you know, like it's got to be so insane to be on this show, and you do it once, and a lot of people are talented and experienced and lucky enough to really nail it. But for the few that like we're finding their sea legs in front of us, I've got to imagine they wake up the next morning going, oh my gosh, if I could just do it one more time, I know now what it's like. I know the vibe. I know the energy. I know what I need to do. I can take that extra moment to, like, you know, have the little connective pieces of a look here, a look there, you know, the rhythm, all these things that you're referencing, you know, but it's showbiz, baby.
Yeah. Well, you know, Ellis, who was one of our producers here, was at the dress show and said that he thought that Mikey was a fantastic host and like, you know, basically made a lot of things better. So not the canon show we ended up seeing on Saturday, but according to him, he really felt like she did that. So there could be a lot of reasons for it, but we are talking about what we saw on screen. Yeah, no, look, this was a very weird placement for a game show. The idea was interesting. It was very similar to a game show that we saw Abby Elliott do right prior to her leaving the show. She did a game show where she was the lead performer in a show called What Is This? And this took place in May of 2012. So it was a very, very similar concept. And a lot of people actually looked at that not knowing that Abby Elliott was leaving the show at the time and being like, oh, Kristen Wiig's leaving. Maybe Abby Elliott's going to have a bigger opportunity on the show. This could be a good like jumping off point for her. So I just think if you're ever interested in looking at some of the DNA of you know, this idea of a sketch, I think you can go back to that sketch for sure and find that one online. But this one was just okay for me. All right, we're gonna head.
That's the only time we've talked about Abby Elliott. I always enjoyed her a lot.
Yes.
Same. Shout out to Abby
question.
Elliott.
Did we expect more dudes to come out though in this game show? Like I thought
originally in the dress version of this one, there was judges in this sketch that were played by Bowen, Ego, and Ashley, and then Keenan was also in this one, who played Longfellow's financier. So I guess
like a sugar daddy.
That sounds like a
manages his money.
Different sketch.
So a very different. Very different sketch. All right, so we're gonna go next to the sketch that Nicole wants to talk about. Right before we get there, I'm very excited to announce that we have a very special offer from our friends at the NBC store, available exclusively to listeners of the Saturday Night Network. Got a nice card in the mail from NBC saying, John, we at the shop at NBC Studios are big fans of the SNN. Wanted to send the perfect addition to your memorabilia collection. Only 1,000 of these have been made and are all handcrafted and hand painted to honor 5 decades of comedy gold. Thanks for making us laugh. The shop at NBC Studios. So here we go. We have this snow globe, which was the official SNL 50 snow globe. Get that snow glowing a little bit. There you go. But yes, this is still available to be ordered from the NBC shop. We also have have the official SNL 50 ornament. I know it's not Christmas time to hang us up on your tree, but it's never too late to get this for next year. Beautifully designed and expertly crafted in Poland, this one. And NBC would love to offer the listeners a one-time and limited offer of extending the NBC employees discount of 25% off for these exclusive pieces. You can call the shop to order them, 212-664-5967. That's 212-664-5967. You should mention SNL Network, or you could still purchase these online with the promo code SNL Network to get either one of these, to get the employee discount exclusively to listeners of the Saturday Night Network. All right, Nicole, what sketch do you want to talk about?
Look at that.
So cool. Ad read.
I wanted to talk about, just with the drama, and maybe this has to do with the drama, but the Big Dumb Line featuring Joe Jonas, ? Before I talk about it, John, is there anything you know about whether that was supposed to happen or not? I just want to start there for any listeners who like gossip like I do.
I don't have an official answer. Like I said, I've heard conflicting reports. I have heard from one source who works at the show that the original concept included Morgan Wallen, who then decided that he did not want to participate. I have heard from others that this is not exactly the way it went down. So one of those things where it's, I believe, like I said, when these things happen at the show decides to like close ranks a little bit. And it's like, okay, we're just going to protect what happened and let the story die. I do believe at a certain point, somebody who works at the show will either come on with us or it will leak out through some other source what exactly went down this week. But you're not wrong to start to speculate as to where Morgan Wallen could have been involved in this sketch.
Yeah, just putting, a few things together. I feel like it has to be. The gossip brain is just churning and churning. So yeah, I like this. I mean, I've lived in New York City my whole life, and that it's something I was thinking about. If it's so like the current TikTok era where all these things are trending because of that, it's like, oh, you have to get this random food that is something that's actually, it's either so generic or it's just a combination of two random things or whatever, but because it's TikTok approved or a certain influencer posted about it, then you have to get it. And it's so of the moment. But then I was thinking about like all of my life here, and it's like there have been versions of that forever in New York. There's always those things that have these super long lines that are, it's word of mouth. Now it's TikTok. It used to be word of mouth, or like, the World Wide Web of just like Reddit or whatever, which I still am on Reddit all the time. But there's always been different avenues and platforms and ways for these big things to happen, or like it's not just like food things, but also a lot of fashion things, like trunk shows or vintage pop-ups or whatever. Like there's always these things that through somehow every single person who wants to know about it finds out about it, and then there's a line around the block, and it's just such a New York thing. Like you spend your Saturday or your Sunday going to these places, and it's just so New York.
Show?
Like a like a jewelry pop-up where it's a person with a jewelry company gets to have a section of a store where they're selling their products, things like that.
The origin being you'd open the trunk and take out your clothes and display them for people.
Right.
So a woman just throwing stuff out of her car?
Yeah.
No, not a trunk like a car, a trunk like a suitcase.
Trunk,
like
it's
not
that.
Okay.
Into an store.
Talking about tailgating.
Selling other things, they let you sell your whatever you can fit in your trunk.
Gotcha.
And you open your trunk. So it's things like that, or pop-ups or whatever. Like it's just such a New York thing, and I'm curious if people who live in other cities have that experience, but it's so New York. And then
Nicole,
you
just
get
make sure
to
you
the
hold the
end.
mic to you so we can hear you properly.
Sorry. And then you get to the front of the line, and then you get to what you're eating, and you're like, most of the time you're like, oh, like, okay, this is fine. But then you're like, well, I have to post it on Instagram because I made it all this way to the line. So it just was so relatable to me, and I enjoyed that. And I liked the lore of it with Joe Jonas. I thought he did a great job. Again, I picked a pre-tape just to underscore the point that was where our host was her strongest. And she did play off of the cast well here. Just again, in a different capacity than live comedy.
Yeah, this was one of the weirdest music videos I think I've seen in a while. I mean, it was definitely an interesting idea. And I guess if you are a New Yorker, for sure, waiting in lines, like the idea itself is really funny. It was just like the design of the music video. Again, like I still don't know why they needed to have like British accents in New York. It was like, it just like was so weird.
Oh, that is a good point.
It was so weird musically. And it's like, again, it's fine to have Joe Jonas in this, especially if he lives in New York. But just, I don't know. There's just like, this came off like one of those things that like they did it just to do it instead of like having like a really creative angle to it. Kirstin, what did you think?
Yeah, those lines are strange. I did see like Busy Phillips, the actress, posted, and she's like, they're real. I liked it. I thought I like that they do very New York centric things at times. And they get really specific. It's a very John Mulaney take on, a New York or something that if you know, you know. Although when I was in London at the holidays, there was a dumb big line for bagels in London. Who knows? So they're infecting the planet. What's that?
For bagels?
Yeah.
Bagels was a dime a dozen. Oh,
I know. They were special bagels. Exactly.
Never mind.
I agree. The accents were a bit strange. I also thought the wardrobe was really odd. It was like a weird 90s all khaki Gap ad, but make it business casual. A little strange. And Chloe and Sarah were so great that Mikey just kind of was a background performer a little bit for me. Like all the facial expressions of Chloe and Sarah were bang on. They really worked their kind of wigs and the wardrobe, and Mikey had this kind of big Farrah Fawcett-ish thing going on. So there were some weird choices made, but the take on such a New York thing felt fun, and it looked fun to make. And they definitely had a POV on those dumbass lines, which I appreciate. And I'd like to say that I don't stand in them. I'll just put that out there.
Yeah, no, again, I think it was a fun idea. I just like really wish that there was more they could have done with it. TJ, was there anything that you felt strongly about with this music video?
I mean, Kirstin is making me think about like, this is just another case of where I think one of the major issues with this episode was like the not the blocking, but the placement. Like, I think you put this at the back. I think you put PDD and What Are We? I think you do Jury Duty, PDD, and What Are We? Like, you start that off, so at least it's not Mikey doing one thing and then it goes down, or you have a chance for her to ascend to something, then you bring the show down. But like this, I first of all, I do want to say I do like British pop parody. It's a very specific thing. Like, they did it on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, and I really like it. So I'd like the sound of it, but it is, when I think about it, I'm like, oh yeah, that is weird to do. A bunch of people singing in British accents in New York specifically. I'm definitely like
it almost felt like this could have been like a Chris Red, Pete Davidson rap, like it's like the type of thing that was like,
been, yeah. Or Gemma.
Well, yeah, but I'm just like, I'm saying, like, if you're gonna, if the goal of the thing is to talk about something that happens in New York, like it should be like New York style.
Yeah.
Just a quick call out to Gemma, by the way. Watching Severance for the past like few weeks, every time Gemma's name is said, Cecily Strong's voice pops up in my head. Like, my name's Gemma. Like I had to tell
banana.
Yeah, I had to tell my girlfriend why I was saying my name's Gemma every time Jenna was saying while I was watching Severance. Sorry, it's such a separate thing, but it's such a deep cut because nobody remembers that sketch. Okay, anyways, what I was trying to get at is that like I'm on that train Nicole is talking about, where it's like there's a really cool thing on social media and it's like, oh snap. However, I think I'm the person that gets off like a couple stops early, where it's like I save so much on my Instagram, so much. I'm like, here's the New Jersey tab, the NYC tab, here's the travel tab, saving so much. I know that the cooking tab, I know damn well I'm not looking at those videos again. Like maybe like one time I have to go into the city this week to see like a sketch show, and I was like, oh, I want to do something like else like while I'm there, and I'm like, okay, I'll drag open these Instagram tabs like to see like what I've saved, but it's such a hassle to go through them. But I so rarely do them, and by the time I do them, I don't have to wait in line. But like I think the only time I ever like did wait in a big dumb line was to play Super Smash Brothers for the Wii U before it came out in 2014. But I will say that wasn't a dumb line. I made friends with a nice family, and it was great. But like, yeah, like lines suck. Joe Jonas, why? And I don't know. It was a relatable experience. Lines like suck, and it's like, why are we like doing this? And stuff isn't always as we like make it up to be. It feels so weird just because somebody's a good editor that for some reason it makes something seem better than it is. Like just because somebody knows how to market something doesn't necessarily mean that thing is great. That just means that person's is good at like getting people to like be interested in it. I know Nicole has worked in marketing. So I don't know. To me, I get it. It makes me feel a little sad. And also Mikey didn't pop in this. I think she was not interesting or fun in this. I agree with what I think Nicole, you're the one that said it. Like this was another case of like you have her do this after the monologue. It was like a 1-2 punch of like, where's my host? Like, what's going on here? Like, why is she like not being featured? And so, yeah, I really didn't enjoy this.
But again, there's also like something really fascinating about the like psychological concept of do things taste better when you wait in a line for them? Because
no, they don't.
No, you tell yourself they do.
Don't.
You wasted hours of your life.
Right,
it's herd mentality. Yeah.
This debate and passion should be exhibited through the sketch. And I got none of that. Yeah. I just got like a fun little like bop that they were doing, singing about like this concept that's happening. And like,
well, you kind of got the answer when they tasted the pizza at the end, and they were like, it's just pizza.
Yeah. It's a through line.
Right, but again, I don't feel like the buildup was there to get to that point. Like if you're gonna structurally figure that out from the sketch perspective, then there needs to be like so much buildup of like, I can't wait for the pizza, and then
like someone's aging in the lineup, their hair is growing longer, they've been in it so long, or they're obsessed. Like
physical progression of some sort.
Like it just really felt like it did feel like the whole thing was very flat, like in terms like musically, like it just never it never built to the point that I felt like
Andy Samberg would have really leveled that up.
It's funny,
he would have made that amazing. Yeah, it would have been a hit immediately.
And Sammy had a
or is
hilarious
it just because we like Andy, or is it just because he would have made it good?
Sammy had a hilarious take on Saturday where he said that this music video reminded him a lot of Jizz in My Pants. And then he actually texted me a mashup of this song with Jizz in My Pants. And it was very funny.
You need to share that.
Yes,
I think that's an insult to Jizz in My Pants, by the way. By the way, John, I would agree you on the podcast. I came across a karaoke bar recently that has Jizz in My Pants and Mother Lover on their karaoke list. So next time we're in town, my friend, I mean, we got to do a duet. I'm just saying.
Count me in. Yes. Mother Lover with TJ.
I mean,
All right, so let's do. So we're gonna do rapid fire in a moment. I know we still didn't talk about the sketch I want to talk about. So I'll do some just a brief little thesis on this sketch, and if anyone wants to jump in, they can. The sketch that I really wanted to dive into more was the acting teacher sketch with Marcelo. I know that it's something that SNL really obviously had some confidence in, and that's why they put it at the front. And I don't know that we, it seems collectively from the response that we got on Saturday and tonight that people didn't really care for this one. And I wanted to will it to work because I really, again, love the idea here of like this acting teacher. And I love the energy that Marcelo brings to this sketch. I just feel when I watch this that they really are missing like a little bit of nuance to the character to make this more interesting. I started to see almost like Master Thespian, which is a very famous John Lovitz character, in this character in a way. But I feel like the major difference there, why like a Master Thespian works in the late 80s or mid 80s versus something like this, is that there's like a vulnerability to the guy who's questioning his confidence as he tries to like teach ridiculous things. And I feel like what we end up getting with this sketch is simply because Marcelo's a star and they want him to be a star, that we're just getting a lot of him yelling or showing off his energy without him having that proper balance in the character. So when you get something like this,
it's allergy season.
You said what?
And I've got a runny nose,
for real,
itchy eye,
oh no,
and sneezing.
Like this?
Like, I love it and I see how talented he is, but I do feel like for Marcelo to ascend from being a very talented, good SNL cast member to being a great SNL cast member, I think he needs to bring more layers to his characters. And I find that this is just very, very one note for me. So that was, I sort of wanted to update my opinion on it as I watched it a second time. Does anyone else want to comment on this sketch, the acting teacher sketch?
I think that that original incarnation of its sketch doesn't give the respect it deserves to Charlie XCX, and I just want to say that also about her episode as a whole. Because if you compare this to Mikey, like compare Mikey to Charlie's episode, you can feel Charlie, her performance. You can just like feel a direct performance, and it's a lot easier to go with, even if it may not be your thing. It has that imprint more. And I think Charlie's character in the first sketch, to me, is the thing I enjoyed in combination with Marcelo, to the point where when you take somebody like Mikey Madison, who's a lot more chill, and if you're trying to do like an opposites type of thing, I don't think that's what really helped. So I think it's like whoever you have standing next to Marcelo as that like student support character. And I think that's what Charlie XCX did far better, or at least maybe I should say was written better. I'll give it the credit to Charlie's performance. Like I think that's what like really brought it out. And I think they should have had Mikey maybe do a different character, somebody who could that it would make sense why this person would be on the same like energy level as Marcelo. So I feel like it just made it really tough to go with, honestly, because he's the only person in there as opposed to like a minion who's doing the exact. Matter of fact, here's a call out for it specifically. At the very end of the sketch, you see Marcelo puts his arm around Mikey Madison and they walk out. Marcelo immediately starts doing like for lack of a term, the goose step. Like he immediately starts doing like that, like feet or like out position march. And you see he does it maybe like 5 steps, and then you see Mikey Madison maybe do it on the 4th. She picks it up. But somebody, I'm going to say this again, somebody who's maybe an improviser or maybe had a little bit more practice, like working on the fly like that, instead of waiting for another take and growing up in the past 9 years doing multiple takes, would have caught that on the first take and like would have like went with that energy. And I feel like it specifically spoke to how I want to see Mikey do it again. Like at the end, I think that's the theme of this episode. I want to see her do it again because that's what she's good at. And I felt like it was not helped by her performance. But I'm only speaking about her performance. I'm speaking about her as a woman. I have nothing against her like about that, but I just feel like that was very indicative because she was like, "Oh wait, he's doing this. I should do it." Whereas, come on now, any improviser's like, "I'm gonna get you. If I don't catch on step 1, I'm definitely with you on step 2." So it's such a minor detail, but I don't know if anybody else like caught that as well.
I get what you're
small
saying.
Little thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. I mean, beyond just Mikey, I just do feel like Marcelo. They have something really good with Marcelo. He's a firecracker, and I think if you use him correctly, he could be like a really amazing, fantastic, have an amazing, fantastic career at Saturday Night Live. I feel like sometimes when you get these cast members who have that energy, you have to be careful not to just throw them into a sketch and just be all energy all the time. So that's my only thing with this one. But I love the attempt. All right, let's do some rapid fire. So Kirstin, anything else on your list that you want to make sure we cover?
Some random things here. Can we talk about Mikey Day loving pepper spray and treating it like Axe body spray?
Yes. That was pretty good.
Come on.
Varsity Valley.
That was great. That was great. Yeah, that was great.
Yes. Colin Jost, hear me out. He called Paddington a little bitch with his sticky little marmalade paws.
Yeah.
Come on.
I wanted to see if people in the UK would get pissed off about that because I know people love Paddington, and I was like, I wonder if people like if there was someone who would be upset by that.
You know that they're already upset by. If you've watched that Keira Knightley show on Netflix, I think he plays a very different character than a cuddly little bear. They were upset about that, so this is nothing to them. Shout out to Ashley Padilla for her Joanne. I got like a little dash of Aunt Linda exasperation in that, and her bedazzled flask and such. Like that was fun. That was a good moment for her.
Can we hold on Joanne real quick? Because I have
let's do that. Because let's talk briefly about Ashley, who I think I said on Saturday, my headline of the night was that I think Ashley is just like having her star turning moment. And I felt like this was absolutely brilliant. I mean, her in this was so good. The way that she described everything.
Joanne's is more than just a store. It's a sanctuary for women who wear pants to the beach.
And like the way she described everything, the spacing in her words was so great. Of course, like this is the classic line everyone's gonna remember.
Let me tell you a little something about Michael. He raped me.
Oh my God, Joanne!
Oh, fine, he didn't.
That line punched me in the chest. I was like, wow.
It was her reaction to physically like, "Rah," like
Yeah.
oh my gosh. Yeah.
Here was my
Whoa.
question. Here's my question about Ashley Padilla, because I know we're gonna praise the shit out of this because this was absolutely brilliant.
She was great.
Yeah.
Ashley Padilla is the greatest SNL prospect since. Anyone got anything?
Wow.
Kate McKinnon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kate McKinnon is the last, SNL machine person. Was on a sketch show beforehand. Phenom, 10 years on the show. Somebody we all love and admire, respect. Seen as one of the greatest. Maybe Kristen. Kristen. No, yeah, I would say Kate McKinnon.
Kate comes after Kristen. So if you say since Kate, that's fine. I was gonna say since Cecily Strong.
No.
Who comes 1 year after, or a few months after Kate. But if you're saying, because to me, I probably got Cecily in my top 20 all time. I got Kate in my top 10 all time. So
I think Kate also. If I think about outside of SNL, I see Ashley playing roles in Hollywood that I see in the realm of Kate versus Cecily.
Yeah.
I
will worry also about Heidi. That performance made me scared for Heidi.
Mm.
Now, don't get me wrong. Heidi's had her time.
Yeah.
Well, it was more in the sense of like, oh shit, like if Heidi leaves, we got it. Like, well, actually, we need to see Ashley do one more. We need
Ashley to do
I
the
don't.
sketch for sure. But I would say that this is a generational prospect that SNL has found this year. It doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
But what they found with Ashley is incredible.
I
Nicole,
agree.
I know you haven't been on the podcast every week. Like, we would all love to hear your thoughts, but any 2 cents on Ashley now that you've seen her in action?
It feels like we've been getting these like little bits and pieces, and every time has felt really positive. Like, we're never like, oh, that was a stinker of a 20-second opportunity. It's like she's not squandering anything. And sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
It was a little hard to.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, it feels like she hasn't squandered anything, and it's been that sort of like, the more she has, the more we want from her. Whereas I would say Jane Wickline, the more we've seen, kind of the less endeared I am in general. I thought her first update feature was amazing, and they've had diminishing returns for me. So I'd say Ashley is the complete opposite of that, where the more we see, the more we want to see. I'll speak for myself. The more I see, the more I want to see of that. And this felt like the culmination of all those little chances she's been given. But your question is, it's interesting because the best prospect since, like, you'd have to go back in your head and say, what did I think of Kate McKinnon when she was a few months in, not what she became? Or what did I think of Cecily when she was a few months in, not what she became? Or using the word prospect even is, what did we know of them before they had any airtime at all, before day one of the season, when we looked back at what they've done and what we thought of it. If we're really going like prospect definition wise, it's hard to say, but I'm a fan. I think she's also been really patient. It feels like she hasn't been given that much for like at this point close to a year, and she's like made the most of everything. And I can't imagine that that's easy when it's not just like, oh, I get a chance, let me be as big as possible or as attention grabbing as possible. But if I'm given this role, let me just do what is asked of me in this role and do it well. And she's been, to use more sports words, like she's been a great role player. And then she gets to be like the star one night, or like the second option or something. And she's great. So I think she's been amazing. And I think, like you were talking earlier, making some comparison about the DNA of the show and something that felt the DNA of some former cast member, like this was so that, like you can see the technique, you can see all of those things of like Kristen Wiig when she was starting, like you just see all those little bits and pieces of someone who's really seasoned and has worked hard and has studied. Like, you just know Ashley has studied all these past greats that we talk about all the time. She knows all of their mannerisms, all of their quirks, all of the ways that they use their voice, everything. So I'm a fan. I'm excited for her.
And I said this a little bit on the feedback show a couple weeks ago. These are the things that make me still interested in Saturday Night Live. Like, as somebody who's seen every episode a couple times, that like keeps coming back to the show week to week, it's to like see the next great star. and knowing that her trajectory and path on this show is limitless. Like, she can go anywhere right now, from being like a 1 or 2 season forgettable cast member to her ceiling being on the Mount Rushmore. But we just don't know. We don't know what's going to happen with her week to week, and everything's been really good in this first season. So when you see new talent and stars come on the show like this, it is the most exciting thing as a longtime fan of Saturday Night Live. Kirstin, did you finish all of your rapid fire stuff?
No, it does make you want to sniff a marker. That make sense. Got a chuckle. I would say what was hilarious. One was the really deep cut taking digs at Hilary Duff in what should have been a 10-1 sketch, the birthing episode, birthing center with Barry.
God,
I think a sketch that is going to be repeated over and over is the pre-tape of Planning New York. I think that is something that when someone moves to New York, you say, watch this. All right, you can find your way around now. That is onboarding for New Yorkers. A broad way. I loved this Bowen Longfellow energy. I thought the line readings were fantastic. This was actually my favorite thing of the whole show. And I'm also surprised that came right at the end. If I could have, we've talked a lot about if this was a jigsaw puzzle, we would build it differently. That things like, so like, what are we? And, the Pops Gangster and this animated short and PDD, like front load a lot more of this. Barry should have been the 10-1. I think that's what we're struggling with, is that the layout of the show, those cards maybe fell on the floor and got all mixed up or something. But Planning New York to me was a classic. I will rewatch that a ton. I've shared it with so many people. It's not quite as much as I share Christmas Time with the Jews. That is like my ultimate, like one of my favorites. But I love this.
Speaking of Jack Black's episode.
Yes. But I love this for its evergreen nature. It will be funny at any point because that is the origin story of New York's very interesting and unique layout.
100%. And this was a cartoon that was cut 4 times previously from the season before ending up on this episode.
Really?
So, yeah.
Shocking.
Yeah. So, very exciting that it finally made it in. TJ, anything else on your rapid fire list you want us to touch on?
Just a quick shout out to Devin Walker's piece. I feel like it's very fair for us to say that I know Devin Walker's in like Danger Watch, and I myself still feel like, what is Devin Walker's comedic voice? But then again, maybe it's that he doesn't have to have a specific one. He's on the show for a reason, to be able to do lots of different things. And I think I really enjoyed this. Like I've been watching a lot of the parodies of that dumb Ashton Hall video. Why would you put lemons in water and put your face in it? I don't know. I asked my physical therapist. She says she couldn't think of a medical reason to do that. We'll put bananas on your face. But listeners, but I as somebody who's watched a lot of like parodies of that dumb video recently, like Duolingo and other things, I enjoyed that piece. It also felt like something a little different for Devin to do too. Like him, I know he's done a few pre-tapes, but like this was like another fun place for like a pre-tape. But the problem with like I'm saying is that like what do we do with Devin? Like where do we put him? And I hate to be saying that, especially about a Black cast member. Mainly because I'm like, come on, brother. Like I feel like everyone has an identity, but Devin doesn't. Anyways, I feel like I enjoyed this piece. Like I get maybe Devin's supposed to be like, like the low-key broy guy. Like he's a little broy, but he's not broy to the point of like shoving in everyone's face. Like that's what he's done on an update. He's definitely funny. But I like these pieces, those little pieces he did were fun. I will say this also, rapid fire. Joanne Fabrics. Did not expect a rape joke to like hit like that. Like it got me. So because like I just, it's just something like that's just been a little far removed from my head in terms of like putting that in humor, and it takes like just a good like comedian to do it, and I think she nailed it, and also to make it a false accusation joke. And I'm like, wow, but like it's still like landed great. Like shout out to her. Oh gosh, I think that was just like one other thing, but like
Okay.
overall, this was like a little uneven of an episode.
Okay,
But I think
that's
the Devil
fair.
Walker thing I enjoyed. Yeah.
Nicole, do you have any rapid fire stuff you want to bring up?
Yeah, I'll make some brief comments on things that have been mentioned. The Devin Walker video, or the video it's parodying, I'm like very much in my marathon era. I'm like doing all those things. So I saw it as like, oh, I'm like doing a lot of that stuff right now.
Even the banana?
unironically. No.
Tape?
Okay.
But like all that stuff, I'm really into it right now, and I'm like super impressionable. If I see something and somebody's selling me on an idea or a dream or whatever, I'm like, okay, I'll try it.
It's giving marketing
If I
nature.
can slash my PR, I will. Yeah. So I like those things. I wanted to comment on one more brief note about the rape joke. As you said, it does take a gifted comedian to have the audience like be behind you there. So
Yeah.
she's doing something right in a way that is like very inherent and like coming from somebody who has a lot of just natural, not just talent, but ability to like have a feel for the audience. Of course, there was no improv that was going to happen here, but like you still have to have a feel for the audience to land that. And she did.
Okay.
That's what I have. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
also shout out to Squidward. Like it feels weird being
yes.
an old SpongeBob fan now, and like when they're asking is mayonnaise an instrument, I'm like, why isn't the audience laughing? That's high level art. That's high level comedy. When the doctor says horseradish is not an instrument either, and I don't hear the audience laugh, what uncultured swine are sitting in the audience? And it makes me realize, oh wait, while SpongeBob has been around for 25 years, and I'm a millennial who grew up on it. Like everyone may know the characters, but they may not know the same era of SpongeBob jokes. And I'm like, oh man, made me feel old.
Mikey was great in that. She was fantastic
She was
in
very
that
good.
one.
Yeah.
Again, an edited performance. But yeah, you're right. Like it breaks my heart.
She was good.
But yeah, she was great.
Speaking of Ashley Padilla, I do want to also shout out a great line that she had in the midwife sketch, which to me was my favorite part of the midwife sketch. When they go, they're like, "Oh, you're having another baby 3 years later," and she goes,
I know, life.
That line, that was the one rapid fire I forgot. I was like, that line kills me, and I was like, it's the pause at the end that it just sticks.
But those are the things.
She's like a scientist with her delivery. Everything feels
100%.
like it's been crafted in a lab. Like every syllable, everything.
It was 3 words, and there's so much was conveyed in 3 words.
And it's happened week after week. And I played these lines because I pulled them because I do believe that everything is very well thought out. Like even in the Shane Gillis episode a couple episodes ago, like we were just talking about lines that Ashley had that just completely elevate sketches. Like I think they know what they have, and this is like what you're seeing now at the incarnation of her career.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest, this Joanne's performance was the one that finally, like, I feel like I remember winning me over. I might have on a podcast said that beforehand, but I feel like this is like the one that, like, it is the one that should win everyone like over, because I know we were on like Patient and like Danger Watch was happening. She's having like little bits of things, but I feel like this is the thing. And I'm like, oh wow, now I see it. Like I feel like I similar to what I had with JJ, where I was like, all right, like what's the big deal? Like I see it now, and now it's like okay, like now like when she does it again, then I'm rooting for you. So I feel like this tentative time is like, all right, you did it once, but can you do it again? Is it an Angelo and Macintosh thing, or are you going to be Kristen Wiig?
Oh no, all my chips are on the table for her. All of them are all in. Yeah,
I agree.
I'm not there yet. I'm not there, but I'm very. I love this.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, guess what, CEO? You killed Joanne Fabric.
So
damn, what a good update piece.
Yeah, let's do our.
The one she says biggest breast you've ever seen. Fucking.
Let's do our MVP results, and the MVP poll is something that the great Nicole Rovine started back in the day, and we've continued the tradition ever since. So, Nicole, I will start with you on this one. Who do you think the top 3 MVP vote getters were for week number 15 of season 50?
That's a really good question. I mean, I might answer it in a little bit of a different way. I might say like the gossip chain is one. Like it's not Mikey and it's not Morgan Wallen, but it's like some person who it's something around the Morgan Wallen thing. I don't know who to give credit to, so I guess that can't count. This is a really hard week to give this to. I think it'll come down to like preferences or certain highlights. I don't think I'm going to be confident about this. I would say knowing our audience, I think Ashley got a lot of votes just for one standout amazing piece. I'll just give you one because I don't like being wrong. So I think she's in there, and I don't want to be wrong on the other ones.
All right, fair enough. Kirstin, over to you.
It's funny that you say that, Nicole, because I was going to be like, Ashley. Like even saying maybe Bowen because of Planning New York. He was in so much, but I don't know that it's as memorable.
Yeah.
I'll do
speaking
Ashley,
of, I forgot
Bowen.
Kirstin. Sorry, I forgot to give the stats of the week. So let me just do that. Mikey Madison, 10 sketches. Also got appearances from Joe Jonas. Mikey's brother, Miles, was in this as well. Of course, Morgan Wallen very famously walked off the stage during the goodnight. So if you wanted to vote for him, you could have. There was 6 sketches for Bowen Yang, 5 for Ego, Chloe, Dismukes, and Sarah and Marcelo, 4 for Mikey Day and Devin Walker. James had 3 sketches and a couple of voiceovers. Longfellow, 3 sketches, 2 for Keenan and Heidi. We also had 5 for Ashley Padilla, who led the rookies, and Jane Wickline with 3, and Emil with 2 appearances from Carl Tart in his sketch as well. Please,
Carl Tart,
of course. Yeah. So, sorry, Kirstin, who is your top 3?
Ashley, Bowen. We're cheating, but fuck it.
All right, TJ, your top 3 for the week.
By the way, John, did you say Carl Tart 1 or 2 sketches?
Oh, he was in 2 sketches, actually. He was in that Devin piece. Yes, you're right.
Blink and you miss it. Like, it's so fast. Like, blink and
he was in that one, and of course, he was the bailiff. Yeah.
Yeah. Love Carl Tart, by the way. I really hope to maybe see him in the cast at some point. Love him. He's so funny. Okay, for me, like Ashley Padilla, clearly. I'll put Bowen in second. And then, oh God, I'm trying to remember who was in that first sketch.
Cold open on the list. Or acting class?
Marcelo is who I'll put in 3rd place.
How about Andrew's just sleeping? Andrew falling asleep.
Yeah, well, we go. Here are the results for season 50, episode 15, the top 5 MVP vote getters. Here we go. Ashley Padilla, 42% of the vote, just dominated the MVP pool for week number 15. So big congrats to Ashley Padilla here. Marcelo Hernandez, 14% of the vote, comes in 2nd place. Andrew Dismukes, 9%. Mikey Madison, our host, in 4th place, 7% of the vote. And Bowen Yang, 6% of the vote. And then, of course, Morgan Wallen, negative 42% of the vote. No, just kidding. He did not make the top 5. All right. Ashley, Marcelo, Andrew, Mikey, and Bowen Yang. All right. So much to talk about here this week from this episode. So glad that there were so many fun storylines to get into. Let's turn our attention for now to next week's episode, where a host is coming in who I never thought would host the show again, because it had been so long I gave up hope. But talk about one of the more unique hosts in SNL history who has a clearly defined brand when he hosts the show, that takes over, does music, performs, and is just like one of probably all of these SNL cast members' idols, is Jack Black, returning for the first time since one of the most famous episodes of SNL, December 17th, 2005, season 31, episode 9, the episode that completely broke the internet, where we had Lazy Sunday, Jack Black and Neil Young's episode. And he was there, and all of a sudden, so many years later, he has finally returned.
20 years.
It's incredible. From 2005 to 2025, they were finally getting Jack Black back. So, Kirstin, what do you think of the return of Jack Black with music from Elton John, another former SNL host, and Brandi Carlile, a great musical guest?
This is magic. This is 50th giving me 50th. How incredible. The Jack Black episode is probably my favorite. So my expectations are incredibly high, and I actually don't think I'll be disappointed. I'm sure everyone has so many ideas about what to pitch him. Everyone wants to be in a sketch with him. Like, it's gotta be like turning the entire cast environment up to an 11. I'm excited to even just watch Instagram and see all of the kind of pre-show content they put out, because as you said, John, there are so many fans of his inside there. And Elton John, he no longer tours. He often comes back, right? But like isn't a touring musician anymore. So that's a bit of a coup. And then performing with Brandi Carlile is fantastic. That's a beautiful way to reach so many audiences. I'm so excited. I'm a little bit speechless because I'm so excited for this episode. This is appointment viewing. This is for anyone who's even a mild fan of the show to get really excited. And I also think it's the type of host that is we all get excited about, but also casual viewers tune into.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of those things that like when season 50 was kicking off, we were all hoping of like, can you bring back some legends to the show that you haven't seen in a long time? And this is one of those. I mean, this is a guy who hosted during Kenan Thompson's first episode as a cast member, was his second time as a host. In the first time he hosted, he had this incredible happy birthday song. If you go back and check it out, that's like absolutely fantastic. I believe the second time he hosts, there's a Cats in the Cradle sketch, which I believe is Jason Sudeikis' first sketch that he ever wrote for the show that he got it. Like there's a lot of lore and history to Jack Black that's not even including his most recent episode in 2005, which obviously had Christmas Time for the Jews, Lazy Sunday, a Debbie Downer, and A-Holes, the very famous Will Forte spelling bee sketch. So like, this is a guy who, when he cracked the top 50 of our host countdown last season, we were like, yes, well-deserved. This is exciting. TJ, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it is hysterical though, that it's Jack Black who's, been in Hollywood a long time. What, at least 25, 30 years we've had Jack Black? Long time. And it still feels like it hasn't been that long, which is how joyous Jack Black is. Just like a person who just radiates joy in their own vibe. He has this very much his own personality. It doesn't feel like a PR person came up with it for him. It was like, this guy has been this guy. He was the same guy in Tenacious D, the same guy on SNL, the same guy in that Brutal Legend video game that I only played a little bit of, but it was really good. And then the same guy, also fun. It's so funny that it's for the Minecraft movie of all things. That's what brought him back to the Minecraft movie. He's been in so much other stuff, but it's Minecraft. But it is really, really cool. And I think it's also just, oh my God, Brandi Carlile is somebody who I'm so glad to see on the show. And it's such a weird phenomenon because like people come to the show, they do music, and it makes a fan out of me. Lady Gaga's show recently, like I was like, oh snap, I haven't looked at Gaga in a while. I'm listening to Disease on repeat. Are you kidding me? And so Brandi Carlile, the odd thing about her is I'm like, she did an amazing first show. It was incredible. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna become a fan, but oddly enough, not into her music as much, but like thoroughly enjoying those live performances on SNL. Absolutely happy to see her. Elton John, absolute legend. And then I think if you just zoom out a teeny bit, it's so cool. This felt like a really cool lineup where we got something interesting. Mikey, new Oscar actress, brand new, brings in the Gen Z, brings in like the Oscar people. Morgan Wallen is the country person. Jack Black has a massive broad appeal across generations. And then Brandi Carlile, Elton John, that's also multiple age generations. And then John Hamm and Lizzo. That one feels like it's for like the SNL fans, and also I'm a Lizzo enjoyer. So this feels like such a cool time to be an SNL fan these couple of weeks here, especially since Severance is over. And I'm like, what do I watch now on TV? So really perfect timing for this great lineup of shows. And I am very much looking forward to Jack Black. Just absolutely rooting for this is a great time to root for SNL.
Yeah, it is for
and
sure.
Minecraft, I guess.
Yeah, and for everything that went on this week, that's the greatness of SNL, is like the next bus is coming around, right? So if you weren't a fan of Mikey Madison's episode, that's totally okay. Jack Black's episode's right around the corner, and I'm excited to talk about that one for sure. Nicole, are you excited for what we may see this weekend?
Oh, of course. I am so excited. I also think when you have somebody like this coming the following week, it does provide some context for the episode we just saw. Nobody was whipping out their best pen and paper to write their most inspired sketches for Mikey Madison, unfortunately. Like everybody was saving that for Jack Black, and it was no fault of hers. It's just you get a guy like that coming into the
John
room.
Hamm, right? Like
right.
Yeah, it's a bad week for Mikey Madison. That's true. That's fair.
I mean, with the midwife sketch, for example, like I just before the podcasting, I rewatched the one with Quinta Brunson, and I'm like, there actually was like zero writing that had to be done for this installment. Like, you compare what they're saying, there's like, it's like Ashley making the most of those 3 words, and that's the only difference. It's like there was not a lot of work that had to be done to make that one. So that was the Mikey Madison episode. It was the writers were saving the juices, or they thought of great ideas and they were like, I'm saving it for next week. Sorry, guys. So I'm excited. I think expectations are high. I'd just be shocked if it was a letdown in any way. It's one of those you just know.
Don't say that. Oh my God.
I'm comfortable.
Can you imagine, Nicole?
This will be the greatest episode ever.
Oh my God.
I'm with you, John. I'm with you.
Yeah, we got to manifest this stuff. So.
I'm not nervous at all to jinx it or anything. It's just you have such confidence in this type of thing. Like, it's going to be so great. It's like what John said. It's when we talked about what this season should mean, could mean. It's episodes like what we're about to get. That's what it is. I mean, even Elton John and Brandi Carlile, having them come on. It's like, Brandi has become kind of like, even though she's not a new star, I feel like she's become a new-ish, like, really great musical guest of the last couple of years. So in a funny way, it's like blending new and old, even though she's been on the scene for a long time. She's kind of newer to being like in the SNL fold, and she's been amazing when she has been on, and she's like a super fan of the show and all of that stuff. So I think that's really fun.
Yeah,
I think it's gonna be great. I have like every confidence. Like, I just can't wait.
Oh man, this is the type of show.
High, Jack Black. It's high.
Yeah, it is. We never know what we're gonna get, but this is the type of show where no matter what you're doing, you want to be in front of your television at 11:30 to see what's gonna go on Saturday.
I may stay up for this one.
Right, you want to be live. You don't want to miss anything.
You want to be live.
You don't want to see the YouTube highlights in the morning. It's not like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, or the people that watch the show via TikTok. I'm like, Justin, crazy.
No, this is the one to watch live. So anyways, this will be a lot of fun. Of course, we will be there to cover it all week long. Before we get there, we have another great show coming up on Wednesday where I will be there with Mike Murray for SNL by the Numbers. So we will talk through all of the cast members and their stats, power rankings, all of that to discuss where they are right now in the SNL season. And as we head towards the finish line, project where we might see them in 5 more episodes time. So that'll be Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern on the Patreon feed. We'll have our SNL exclusive sketch breakdown just for you patrons. We will put up the poll for the patrons to vote for the sketch that they want us to break down even further. So that will be out on Thursday. And then, of course, coverage all week long of Jack Black, Elton John, and Brandi Carlile's episode. We also have some SNL stories that we are currently working on. We have an interview that we are scheduled for later this week with a former SNL cast member. So I'm excited to announce that once that's all locked in. And lots of fun stuff coming up here as we head towards the end of season 50. So sincerely want to thank everyone for hanging out with us on this Monday night and talking through just a fascinating episode of Saturday Night Live. Kirstin, thank you so much for joining us. Anything that you would like to say to the listeners?
This was spicy and I loved it. If you're in the Toronto area, please come support our generational women show. It's called generationwomen.ca. And it is a woman in her 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, all talking about a shared topic. And it's a live event. Please come support female voices and live shows. Would love to see you there.
TJ, always a pleasure to get to talk to you. Love getting to debate you and have some fun talking through all the SNL stuff. So appreciate you joining us here tonight. Anything you would like to say to the listeners?
Well, John, I got to take the trash out. But I just want to say before I go here that, like, I've been very glad to be here. I just hate knowing that I didn't do that chore before I got on the show. But what I can say is that if you ever wanted to, like, hear me chatting a little bit more, I used to produce a couple of shows. Rabbit Trail, that's RABID. It was a 15-ish minute podcast. Just my friends and I talking about all things in life, from how do you deal with different conflict styles to, fellas, how often are you crying, to Elon Musk Twitter scandals with John or other stuff. John's been on it. Not Michelle, Nicole was on it. Nice little 150 episode package thing that I'm glad that I did and I put down. And even earlier than that, before I started doing the show, I had a podcast called the Team Trashcast, which is a much more long form show, just about, just navigating life in our 20s. If you're ever curious about that, you can find them either at Team Trashcast or Rabbit Trail. But right now, I'm just happy to just occasionally do this show and play the Kingdom Hearts series. So if anybody wants to talk about video games, you can feel free to reach out to me. But just always glad to be here. Thank you for having me, Jon.
Of course, appreciate you, TJ. And Nicole Rovine, what an honor to get you on the show here on the Roundtable.
And a privilege.
An honor and a privilege.
You don't have to
Seriously.
be so nice.
No, but I'm serious. You, as I always like to say, you are a huge part of the reason why we became what we became. And any chance we get to talk about SNL with you is just like, I'm very grateful for it. So I hope you come back more often, and so glad to get to catch up with you. Anything you would like to say to the listeners?
Thank you. That's very nice. I'm happy to be back. Not much. I'm not really nothing to promote. As I said, I just ran a half marathon. I'm training for my next one, and then the full marathon in November. So it's been like my thing. You know, I always have like a thing. It's always different. That's it right now. We'll see what the next one is. But it's been great. And yeah, that's that for me.
Great. Well, it's a very healthy
Doesn't it
thing.
feel weird that I have something to promote? Doesn't it feel weird?
Yes.
I think the last time I was here, I also was like, I'm hanging out.
Yeah.
Well, it's a very healthy thing that you have, so we're all supporting you.
I'm going to the sports medicine doctor tomorrow. Actually, I have a little patellar tendonitis in my knee, so hopefully I'm healthy. I think I'm okay.
Well, wishing you good health. Wishing everybody good health, no matter where you are in God's country. So, just really want to thank, want to thank all the listeners again for hanging out with us on this Monday night.
You have to mean that so hard.
Yeah, if you would like to subscribe to the podcast and never miss any of the shows we have here, you can on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, and follow us on all social platforms at the SNL Network to never miss any of the content we have going on over here. I want to thank our presenting partner, LateNighter.com, for being always an amazing partner on the show and all the great articles that they have up now about late night television. And thanks to Kirstin and TJ and Nicole for joining us here on this show. On behalf of everybody here at the Saturday Night Network, my name is Jon Schneider. We will see you next time, everybody.